Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey.
Travis.
Hey.
Sheriff.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Sheriff. It's a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate it. Welcome to the Unite the Divided podcast. It's my pleasure actually to have you here. It's been interesting watching your journey and what you do in this for the county. And I know a lot of people that know you. I know a lot of cops. I know a lot of attorneys, and I'm just hearing great things about what you're accomplishing in town. And but you do have some struggles. And you approached me at the 100 Guys Who Care event, saying that we had some mutual concerns about AI technology,
certainly
all that different stuff. And it's definitely something that I tried to have conversations with other local leaders about it, and it's fallen a little flat. Even though there's been some interest, there's not been much follow through. And so I'm not here for gotcha. I told you that before, but there are some things that are out there that, as a technology person myself, he's a drone pilot. There are things that really concern me about where we're going with technology, and that goes into law enforcement. It goes into education. It goes to how it's going to disrupt our society overall. And I did hopefully bring some clips that will help us tell the story and have the conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being on again. Let's just get right into that. So, AI is going crazy. Anybody that has a computer or a phone, I mean, we all carry supercomputers in our pocket, and those supercomputers now are learning more and more about our behaviors and our kids' behaviors. And that's one of the things really that, from a security-minded person and someone concerned about my kids and my grandkids, future kids, it's really, truly concerning about not only how are they going to overcome what AI is going to bring to the table, the job disruptions and all that stuff, but just how these companies and these computers are basically learning everything there is to know about people. And that causes me concern at many levels for my kids' safety. Me and Travis we hit back and forth on this a lot of times. He's kind of I don't know if he's the devil's advocate, but he's not nearly as concerned about the AI tech as I am, I think, from most of the time. Don't want to speak for him. He can speak for himself. But
I can speak.
So let's get right into it. So one of the topics that you mentioned you wanted to talk to me about, I don't want to lead you down my concerns of AI and police and warfare. I want you to, since you came to me with it, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are? I think everyone knows who you are. The De-Talented podcast, you did a very good job of explaining who you are and your family and all that. So everybody check that out. Well, shout out to a local podcaster. Tell us a little bit about yourself if you want. Yeah, otherwise, we can get right into the meat.
Give a very brief biography, and then we can talk a little bit more of the issues of the day.
Sure.
Noah Robinson. I've been the sheriff now for coming up on 3 years. It's been quite an interesting journey. Was elected in late 22 and took office in January of 23. Set about to what I would call not necessarily make any right turns, but certainly kind of a few course corrections. I got handed a really good agency from Sheriff Dave Wedding. He handed it off to me, was very gracious in the way he did it, and we were able to hit the ground running. And so once I got my command staff in place, we set out to kind of make some adjustments around the office slowly at first, and as we got our sea legs, ramping up bigger and bigger changes. Things like overhauling the medical unit in the jail to provide for better health outcomes and lower liability. Shifting to a more neighborhood-based policing model, implementing the camera system, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, no doubt about that. Some of the things just to improve the efficiencies in the office and putting some time and money into things that would directly impact crime and make sheriff deputies' jobs easier, not to say the least of which was solving the problem of absolute dismal staffing levels in the jail, just looking at being 30% understaffed when I came into the office.
Oh, wow.
And within a year and a half to nearly 2 years, we were fully staffed. So if I'm proud of something, I'm proud of the turning that jail around, which was not in the best of shape in terms of staffing levels and morale. And so it's odd now. We've gotten to a place where I have no issues, no problems hiring new officers to work inside the jail. But sheriff deputies are where I'm having the biggest problem recruitment. Never happened that way before. It's always been no one wanted to work in the jail, but everybody wanted to be a sheriff deputy, it seemed like. I'm exaggerating slightly, but not much. And now it's totally inverted, and no sheriff in living memory can ever recall an instance where they had trouble recruiting sheriff deputies, it's always been at the jail, and now it's inverted. We can talk more about that later on, and we can talk about any topic you want to. As far as I'm concerned, nothing's off limits.
Is that because prisoners are easier to handle than the citizens right now anymore?
I think there's a number of factors going on there, which I'm happy to get into with you.
Well, I mean, so you just kind of ended with it. Why don't you just why do you think it's inverted? Why? I have my own probably guttural feelings of why that is, but why is staffing the jail much easier now than the sheriff's?
We sat down and as a leadership team, we kind of looked at things that we thought, well, what's driving folks to leave the jail? Folks would come, they'd work for us for a little while, and then they would resign because they just didn't like it, or they went on to other positions with other law enforcement agencies. And there's never just one answer, just like when you're, like I love, watching those shows where they investigate airplane crashes. There's never just one cause, right? There's always a series of interrelated events. But I think for the jail, the secret sauce in the jail was just having really strong leadership in the jail. And we have that now, making folks, it sounds corny, but making them feel valued. And the big thing we did was just ensure that the promotional process in the jail mirrored the will of everyone's peers, so that we got away from the situation where if you wanted to make a rank, like become a field training officer in the jail or a sergeant or a lieutenant, we got away from just me as a sheriff just picking that person unilaterally and saying, you're now a sergeant.
You've been anointed.
Right? And rightly or not, the perception might be that, well, the sheriff's just picking his buddies. Mm-hmm. And we got rid of that. We went to a scheme where people who wanted to move up in rank would interview in front of a board, and then the board would rank them one to whatever. And I simply picked the first person on my list. And I reserved the right to go to the second choice if I needed to, but I think I've only had to ever do that one time.
Is that the Merit Commission, or is that a different process?
Similar, but kind of similar. But the Merit Commission, the Merit Board, is established by state statute, and it regulates sheriff deputies, or sometimes called merit sheriff deputies. The jailers operate under, as they call them, jailers or jail officers, operate under a contract, a Teamsters contract. But they're not. They have no merit protections. Just the wording in the contract that requires certain procedures to be followed for discipline. But we instituted a policy where it was completely merit based as far as promotion, and that gave folks real hope that if I work hard, I'm going to be judged by the merits of how I do the job. And it seemed to really help. That combined with the council's wisdom to increase pay for jail officers, all these things just started coming together. And we were able to turn the ship around. And now I'm not going to say that it's not, it can be a fun place to work. It's a jail. I mean, there's a lot of folks in there that really don't want to be there. It's understandable, right?
Most of them aren't the staff now.
But it's not the staff that doesn't want to be there, right? And so
that probably the people that are in there, not by their, well, it is by their choices, but not because they want to be there. It's probably good seeing a staff that has a better attitude and is happy to be there, so that it rubs off, I would imagine.
Well, you can imagine dealing with somebody who, a whole cell full of people who don't want to be there. And a lot of them, their pastime seems to be trying to get under the skin of some of these jail guards.
It's not their first time there.
I've heard some great stories. My dad worked at Branchville in Perry County.
Oh wow!
Before I was born,
state prison.
Yeah, and he's got some stories there.
Yeah, I imagine.
But, anyway. But the idea being that these folks inside the jail, obviously they're going to do what they can to antagonize the guards. And if you're a guard we're understaffed, now you're being forced to work overtime, and now you're on your 16th hour or your 12th hour in the jail for that day. Your temper is a bit frayed, and so getting rid of that forced overtime by improving the staffing levels. All these problems seem to sort themselves out when we were able to decrease the attrition, the folks leaving, improve recruitment through a series of billboard advertisements and get the message out, improve pay, improve the morale in the building, better leadership, more training opportunities, better promotional opportunities. It wasn't just one thing. All these things combined to make a place that's really firing on all cylinders now.
Well, I think the term you said, it's not a merit commission, but it definitely sounds like meritocracy.
It's a meritocracy,
which has been a lost thing in the last handful of years. I'd say we went just generally as a country. We were, hiring and firing based on different quota, and I don't want to, and protocols that I don't even want to really tap our toe into. I genuinely dislike everything about the other system, and believe everything should be meritocracy when it can be. And so I appreciate that effort. I don't have any insider information in that, but the fact that you just structured it and said it, and I haven't heard anything otherwise, I would say that was a very good call on your part.
It seems to work. And you know, you're never going to make everybody happy. Always someone is going to feel they should have been higher on that list, and there's no perfect system. And you might have somebody that thinks, well, I was ranked lower on the list because somebody on that board, that interview board, didn't like me. You can't escape those kind of things. We're dealing with humans here, and there's always going to be feelings and emotions involved. But it's certainly miles ahead of where we were before, and it's transparent.
And is it weighted? Like how many people are on the board?
So we establish a board anywhere from 5 to 7 people, depending on the position.
So if you and one person don't get along, I mean, it's a weighted. It's
diluted.
You know, it's like a weighted average. You're just like, I don't have that experience with that person, so I'm not going to take that.
And we structured it in such a way where, like, I just can't rank this person as a 0,
right?
And then have that, have a huge impact on the overall score. We rank them, and then we average those rankings. So no one individual can have an outside influence on where that person lands on the list. So it does dilute that vote to where it somewhat cancels out someone if they were behaving in a less than fair way.
Yeah. So I know, again, we know a lot of officers. We've been around the block for a minute, but so like I know a big part of the transition used to be, like, I think you had to hire on at the jail in order to become a sheriff, and so you're having troubles bringing in sheriffs off the street. Is there still a hop from working in the jail, the potential to go to the sheriff's department?
Sure,
but people just aren't taking that step.
The potential is always there. If you're working at the sheriff's office and you want to become a jailer because you want to get some experience and then try to become a sheriff's deputy or even an ISP trooper or Evansville police officer later on, that still happens. You could always come to work at the sheriff's office and apply to be a sheriff deputy without having first worked at the jail. I never worked inside the jail. I came from the Owensboro Police Department. And a lot of our officers have come, or a lot of our deputies, I should say, have come from other departments, and more frequently have come to us right out of college with no experience in the jail either. It's probably half and half. I would definitely say that somebody coming from the jail who's established themselves and has a stellar reputation probably has a leg up because they're a known quantity and we kind of know how they've performed. And they do have a slight advantage when it comes to applying to be a sheriff deputy. But that being said, we hire folks off the street all the time that have no previous corrections experience. Okay.
And I know a lot of former military used to. Is that still?
It's still thing? There. A lot of former military or folks even still in the reserves or the guard will come to work in the jail, and even some of our deputies are still in the guard or the reserves. I wouldn't say it's an outsized number, but it's not insignificant either. Probably a full 10% of our staff has 10 to 20% of our staff has been in the guard or full time at one point in their lives, and we make sure that we do seek out those kind of individuals. So we definitely would prefer someone who's been in the military. That's another what I call a known quantity. If they've got a good reputation and a good record from the military, then that's somebody we know. We definitely will give them a second look.
Sure. There's a lot of different directions that we can go from here. You'd mentioned we're in recruit. Let's get into recruiting a little bit now because I know that's one of your big challenges. And you had mentioned basically you came from Owensboro, which sounds like you got poached or you did it on your own. Either
I poached myself.
Well, there's people transition to different areas for different reasons, and I do have some clips that we could look at, but it's a known entity in law enforcement that they're poaching everywhere. So
it's never been as bad. Well, I guess not bad is not the right word. It's never been as prevalent as it is right now.
So you're fully staffed at the jail.
Fully staffed in the jail.
And
I have an authorized strength right now of 119 sheriff deputies, including the chief deputy, 120 and counting me. And I'm down 9 positions right now, 9 vacancies. It's not happened. I've never had that level of vacancy in living memory. No one can recall a time where we've ever had 9 vacancies. And what's more disturbing about that is it's not like I've got 9 vacancies and a large pool to choose from. Like I've got folks on deck going through background checks and preparing to receive their offer and being brought to the academy. My pool is nearly exhausted. Now, there's some folks that are in that pool right now, but they're not hireable. They're not anyone that would meet our criteria. But as far as individuals I can lay a hand on right now, very few.
So what's the pool? What's the timeline of, say, someone watches this podcast or sees you on another podcast or a clip, or they get their wild hair. Hey, I want to be. What's the process? Length of time? Just kind of walk us through what that might look like for someone.
So we used to have a process of hiring every 2 years, and it's laughable now to think that we used to do it that way. But we didn't have to worry about recruiting people. When I came on, when I tested, there were hundreds of people in the room. They filled a whole forum out at USI, and there's a lot of interest in it. Now we do testing 4 times a year, every quarter, and we'll be lucky if 10 people show up.
Wow.
And of those 10, we'll be lucky if half of them can pass the physical assessment. The same physical assessment, by the way, that hasn't changed in 20 years or more. And then of those 5 that pass that physical assessment, we'll be lucky if 1 or 2 of them can pass the written test. Wow. Again, the same written test or similar in nature to the test we've always given, a minimum standard.
And that written test is something that, like, while you're in the academy, stuff that you're learning, or
this is a written test that's not. It's law enforcement themed, but doesn't require any law enforcement knowledge, logic, reasoning, grammar, math, basic stuff that you would think most folks with a high school education would have no problem doing.
Well, we could dip into public education a little bit for that, I think, because that's going downhill too. But
that's an easy target for us because we talk about education. I have an education degree from the University of Southern Indiana, and
representing, I see.
Well,
Southern Indiana, sorry.
Yeah, the same here.
I'm just playing with you.
I got a bet.
IU game's also on right in the middle of this pot right now. I think it's starting.
Yep, tip-off's like now.
Yeah, so I'm recording
thanks, Chad.
it. I'm recording it.
I've got a bachelor's from sociology from USI, so I turned that sociology degree into some big money someday. Right?
Big money.
The world is yours with that degree.
Well, I mean, I think that training probably does come into some help in what you.
Yeah, I definitely am glad. I never thought for a moment that I haven't benefited from having a college degree.
Oh, yeah.
But we hire a lot of folks that don't have college degrees. In having a college degree, contrary to what some folks may think, having a college degree is not necessarily a predictor of someone's success at the sheriff's office. Now, I will say that those folks who come in without a college degree do and may, in some cases, need a little extra work on report writing and chronological thinking, expressing themselves in a chronological way. But that can be trained. But it's not really a predictor of how effective of a sheriff's deputy someone's going to be. If you have a college degree, it gives you a leg up. But we hire and will hire plenty of folks that just have a high school degree and relevant work experience or some time in the military. It's certainly no barrier to being a sheriff's deputy.
Well, I think this is just going to be one of those podcasts that we never know which direction it's going to go, and we're going to bounce around a lot, but it's all related. And so we started talking about AI, but we really haven't talked about AI. But if you're, we can go down many different tracks of what AI might disrupt in law enforcement, how it might help you not have to staff as much. There's all kinds of different things, obviously, that we could talk about. One of the things that me and Travis talk about a lot is what AI is going to do, job disruption, just
certainly
around the country and around the globe for that matter. And what are people going to do with themselves?
Yeah. Like clerical positions, it's going to be a game changer. It is being a game changer.
Well, I mean, even Dr. Roy and his friends are, he's got a really good friend that's a radiologist who doesn't believe radiology is going to be a thing anymore. It's going to be something that you plug the output of a test into a machine, and it can give you what the best radiologists on the planet and the outcomes. It can see things that a radiologist can't see with their bare eyes.
I completely see radiologists working for software companies, and then they developing the AI software,
working themselves out of a job,
literally working themselves out of a job.
So let's just listen. We're going to get into this clip, and people love and hate Elon Musk, but he's definitely one of the big disruptors of it all.
That's an understatement.
In many ways we could go down the path with him. His robot, the Optimus robot, you're going to hear this clip, and I don't think I'm not getting nearly the response and the conversation, people wanting to have the conversation, and I think it might be because they're afraid. And so one of the things I know you have to deal with it, even though maybe you might not like talking about it, but it's an inevitable thing that's coming. And we talk about it in education a lot. Like, I'm not going to step on what he says, but we are really critical of the education system and what it's done. And reflecting back on what you said about the testing and people not, we don't do gym class anymore. I mean, I remember having to climb pegs on a wall
Yeah.
in gym.
Remember a rope climb?
Rope climb to the ceiling, ceiling of Plaza Park. I mean, all the way up, you know. And so,
I don't think I had to do that.
No, I mean, that was, well, I was a gymnast, so it was pretty easy for me. But like
getting my fat,
but it's just crazy how much things have changed, and it's going to continue to do that. Let's listen to this real quick. I think it's a pretty short clip.
This is really going to be the most radical change that we've ever seen. If you want to go to college for social reasons, I think, which is a reason to go, to be around people your own age, in a learning environment. Will these skills be necessary in the future? Probably not, because we're going to be in like a post-work society. But I think if something's of interest, it's fine to go and study that. To study the sciences, the arts and sciences. I actually think it's good to take a wide range of courses at college if you're going to go to college. Mm-hmm. I don't think you have to go to college, but I think if you do, you just try to learn as much as possible across a wide range of subjects. But like I said, the AI and robotics is a supersonic tsunami. So this is really going to be.
That was the end of it.
Yeah. So there's two things I take away from that. He says supersonic tsunami, which
it's a good band name.
Sounds a little frightening. It actually does. And, quote unquote, recruiting in a post-work society.
Post-work society. I've heard it before. Yeah.
I haven't heard it quite like that. And that frightens me in a lot of ways. Not because I don't think, I think if there was abundance, like if we can figure out a way for the government not to take it all, or these top trillionaire, these guys that are going to be creating these robots to become the biggest trillionaires that still, they don't steal everything, but they just have the power to do whatever they want to do with what they have. If that can be, and me and him have fought, I've fought socialism and communism my whole life. I mean, that's all I think about whenever I think about governments and how they've destroyed people and they've destroyed societies, is that balance back and forth between far right and far left. And, this is very much sounding socialistic. Like he's like post-work society who that's a lot. And so, recruiting law enforcement to me, it's like, it seems like a post-work society, since a lot of issues that we have. There's a lot of mental health issues. We can talk about that some. There's a lot of drug issues. We can talk about. There's a lot of bad family scenarios, and these are all people that you interact with quite regularly, as well as my wife. You kind of feel like if people can go after things they really enjoy and want to do, maybe like more in the arts or farming, like farming in our backyards more and getting outside more. The problem is that's not the way we're trending. We're in our screens and in our houses and taught to be scared of the sun, so everything is kind of moving in the wrong direction. I don't know what the best question to tee up for you right here is, but recruiting is a challenge for you. We haven't really, you didn't tell us.
I think the connection might be, and I've thought of this deeply because I look at the behavior of my own kids, and I even look at my own behavior. And I've gone from a guy who I would never consider even placing an order for something online if I wasn't sitting at my desk in front of a computer. And then I saw, well, the Amazon's got an app now. So what? I'm never going to use that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wrong. Yeah.
Are you on a first name basis with your Amazon delivery guy?
Oh yeah. I mean, things come to my house every other day. And it's all.
We've got an Amazon delivery team, buddy. I'm not.
Yeah.
We're not.
Oh, my wife. No. I hear you.
So I mean, going from something that I would never have considered to being, okay, I want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be here tomorrow.
And guess what? Your phone knows you love it. And it's going to sell you a bunch of them.
Tease it up for me. It's changed my behavior. And then I went from TikTok. That's stupid.
Yeah.
And I don't have TikTok, but I've got. They snuck it in perniciously. What do I have? Google Reels or something? YouTube,
Facebook Reels,
now
or YouTube.
Now I've got a real problem now because I find myself.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone with this, but it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing the time hole that I fall in that just sucks the time out of me. And I'm usually left feeling either upset or angry about something I've seen. Is it making me happier? I don't know. Occasionally I'll see something there I like, but usually it's just something getting me teed up or angry. It's not healthy. I can't be healthy.
Have you heard of Chase Hughes?
No.
I didn't bring any of his clips. He's got an institute. He's I know he's trained CIA operatives. He's like mind control type of guy. And he basically broke down how algorithms and social media basically hit you overhead with a series of different things. He took his son on an experiment, and I wish I'd have teed that clip up now. But he sat down. I think he was on a Sean Ryan show, and he said he told his son to go to the last reel that he watched because his son was saying something about the reel that made him mad or something.
Yeah.
He's like, go one above that. Is it this? And it basically was generally what he thought. Go one above that. Is it something to do with a pet, getting saved or something or whatever? So there is a pattern recognition of influencing behavior that gets you to that point where you push that next thing. And there's always a pattern they're going there. Not only is that they doing that across society, they're doing it now individually through your phone that learns your particular habit.
Oh, and I can feel it. I know I'm being fed this. Like I not that I can understand their algorithm, but I'm smart enough to know that when I'm dwelling on this clip, they keep feeding me things, and they try out something else. Let's see how he likes this over here, and I know I'm being influenced, and then I think, well, maybe I'll just watch a TV show, and it's like, go back to this.
Well, it's got to be particularly hard for someone like you, who I am assuming you're probably on call almost all the time. If the wrong thing happens at the right time, or whatever.
I would love to tell you that, boy, this county can't run without me. But part of having a sheriff's office is having good people in place, and it's not too often that the third shift lieutenant is calling me on how to handle something. Now, something major happens, sure, but we've got really smart people that are really good at their jobs, and if they can handle it.
I wasn't saying that to throw anyone on the bus.
No.
What I'm saying is you do have a phone right there. I've heard it buzz several times.
Oh, yeah.
And so you're cued in to thinking you have to check.
And my wife will tell you that I'm horrible about this.
Yeah.
I mean, stop. I'm a Pavlov's dog. Just hear the little buzz, and I'm just.
I find myself at like one of my daughter's gymnastic practices or something. I'm like, man, I really need to be here in the moment. I need to watch her.
Yeah.
And because she looks back at me, when I do watch her, I see her go, like she's looking for me, and I don't want her to see the top of my, unfortunately not as felty as it used to be, head. Looking down, I want to put my eyes on her. So I've found that to be a problem, and that's cognitively I'm on my phone a bit less. I think just because of that, just because I try to prioritize
my 14-year-old does a similar thing. So like he's big into golf now, and he was trying to make the freshman basketball team. He didn't make the freshman basketball team, sadly, this year. But
whose kneecaps are we breaking?
He was better than me, and I was a pretty good athlete. I'm short, he's short, but like he's way better than me and my dad ever were at basketball. He didn't make the team. It just kind of blows my mind. Like he can school. But at the end of the day, I only said that to say this: like he wants attention still. Like now that we go to the driving range, the golf range, he'll say, "Dad, watch this. I learned this new shot." And he's making sure that I'm checking in on him and paying attention. He wants me to acknowledge his work and what he's doing, and I think that is a lot to do with even I'm guilty of it. I mean,
sure, I know I am.
I don't know if you know how much preparation I did for this podcast, but like usually I spend several days.
Oh wow!
If I'm
okay.
and I might only use 2 clips, but I never know how a conversation is going to go and how engaging it is, and if I need to put something in to be a filler. But I'm also learning about the problems that you're seeing. So like I want to come in not to have. I think you're wrong about this, but I'm like, well, these are the struggles that they're seeing in Indianapolis and around the country, and I'm sure you probably get those things in front of you all the time too.
I definitely do. It's in. I think another thing, and I'm going to try to tie this in with who the original question was about recruitment, is make 2 quick points.
I asked an original question? Oh my God.
There was a question in there somewhere?
Whoa, that was a long time ago.
I'm trying to get my, because I think in hyperlinks. But these kids now, they don't express themselves well verbally. They just don't. I mean, some do, but a lot don't. My son, not particularly
one word answer.
Not a verbal guy. Yeah.
Same as my son.
Maybe.
You said he's 19? Mine's 14. Yeah. Talks the same way. So.
And so they lots of them don't interview all that well. And so when you get folks in there and a lot of them are not big readers, this thing, I used to read all the time. That's how I got to be a pretty decent writer. If I had this growing up, I genuinely think that my vocabulary would have been probably reduced by at least 30% because I learned words and how they spell them and the context in which they're used by reading books. And this thing is just feeding me slop all the time. So I don't even know that we can even possibly predict what the outcome is going to be down the road. But it can't be good. It can't be healthy. And it's having an impact on the candidates that are applying. Just the folks that are coming in are not able to take tests as well, and they're not able to interview as well, which is a big problem for recruitment because I need police officers, sheriff deputies that can express themselves, are comfortable talking in front of people, and can write a report that makes sense. And if that's not what you're getting, because nobody reads anymore, it seems like, that has an effect on the workforce. And even now, as if to drive the point home, our software vendor, who we use to tracks all our police reports, our computer-aided dispatch, manages the jail. They have a new module now. It's an AI module. It'll help police officers write their reports. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, is that where we're at? We're going to have an AI program to help police officers write their reports because officers don't have the ability anymore to construct a chronological summary of something without having an AI assistant help them through it.
Will that be permissible in court?
So those are still being litigated.
Okay.
And the program, it does it pretty cleverly to where there's some safeguards in there that you have to literally check off on every single sentence. But not unlike, we're all familiar with ChatGPT. We've all used it. Has it made me a better writer? No. And I can't imagine someone who would come into this business not being a good writer and then totally reliant on ChatGPT. But I've used it to polish things before.
I find it for research.
Yes,
really good,
invaluable.
And you can challenge.
Check it.
You can challenge challenging your own biases.
Yes.
Like so, I
think this. I'm not sure if it's true.
Yeah, and go to the smartest people in this field and tell me what they would say, and then you still have to fact check if that's what they would say.
Yep.
But it does. It challenges, my own cognitive dissonance and bias. It does sway me away from that a lot. Which, I'm like you. I got books. I loved reading, but with a busy lifestyle, I found myself doing audiobooks now.
Yeah.
Which isn't the same.
It's not the same.
I like doing both.
Better enough.
I actually like listening to a book and then going back through and reading the book and highlighting stuff, especially important. And that's how my brain works. It anchors things in. And so you circled back around to AI, and I don't know if you finished your point there.
We can get into other ways that law enforcement is using AI, but I want to make sure we addressed anything you had left about the recruitment issue before we move on to
Yeah. So again, we'll bounce all around. There's a lot of things I think about that have harmed recruiting, and a lot of it has, I say media. We dog the media a lot because there have been a lot of campaigns post George Floyd. Don't get into the hits and misses of it or what's right or wrong about it, but just the F the police, the defund the police, all that gets brought into the civic discourse. It comes into, us versus them conversations. It comes into, people sitting in Congress now who have said rhetoric that, and I know you are a Democrat. I mean, I think we've had Democrat sheriffs for as long as I can remember. And, but we are a very conservative Democrat area comparatively.
I mean, I've been heard that, a moderate Democrat like me here would probably be a Republican in some other areas.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would imagine.
But I'm despite I may have certain, we're all, no one's I hate pigeonholing people, right? It's like, well, he's a Democrat, so he must be, uber liberal on every issue. No, I'm not. I'm a scale on all kinds of issues. I think for myself.
Well, I said it before we got on. You've proved a lot of people wrong because I heard a lot of things that you were, these positions, and they haven't come to fruition that I can see.
We didn't switch to cashless bail, and
it's different to have an opinion, and it's different to have ideas, and then I can wear a shirt on this podcast often that says I was wrong. And it's not because you weren't wrong, you were wrong conceptually, but like when the rubber hits the road, sometimes it just doesn't make sense, or it takes a long time for a system to change at that level.
Well, I never said anything during the campaign that I didn't know was possible and I couldn't do. And I never said anything during the campaign that would harm public safety. And so I think I've stayed pretty true to that. I think for the most part, I've accomplished just about every campaign objective that I expressed. But some of those things that I was talking about, I think maybe I got painted a bit as being kind of a little, that feels kind of touchy-feely, liberally kind of thing. You know, things that I didn't think were not that controversial. Like I was really hitting on the idea of having mental health in the jail, which I thought was important because whether we like it or not, the jail with 600 inmates in there, it is the largest mental health facility in the entire county.
Sure.
It's sad that it's that way, but it is. And so when they're in there, then we ought to be providing mental health services. As when they get out, they're going to be living next to you. And do you want somebody that's got some treatment while they were in the jail, or we just kick them out the front door and say, "Hey, good luck to you. I know we didn't solve any of your problems, or even try to, but I'm sure you're going to make a really great neighbor when you move out." We've done that now. We've got Southwest Behavioral Health inside the jail. We've got a mental health unit being built in the new addition, which should be online this time next year. And we just stood up there, Southwest Indiana Recovery and Empowerment. They're an independent nonprofit that we built a space for inside the jail. They're doing peer support for inmates. Some might call that touchy-feely. I'm okay with that. I'm for what works. And so these are folks that have lived experience with addiction. And I just had a meeting with those folks today. They're meeting with upwards of 20, 30 inmates a day doing reentry services. So when they leave the jail, they leave with a plan. That's going to reduce crime. It will reduce crime. I have no doubt.
I mean, my wife does all the different programs, first defense stuff, and basically, if she sees a client twice, the client knows that she's disappointed.
Yep.
Because and you worked with her a lot. I know she did a lot of training when she was
Shauna
a prosecutor.
Was the DUI
prosecutor of the year.
Goddess.
Yeah. And people questioned her when she got on the defense side. She's like, I still want well-trained officers. I should come to every scene, and I shouldn't find these errors. But when I do find these errors, she used to be in a position where she'd be like, "Shame on you." I mean, it's not like I didn't train you to do this right, or but I don't know how that works now. I just want to circle back around to the recruitment issue because we haven't really got down into, I think, the heart of some of the things going on that I see from as an independent-minded person, and this is some of the self-policing I think that politicians have to do. Unfortunately, you're a politician because you're an elected official,
by nature,
right? And the left has been really bad at self-policing in this realm, meaning the funded to police narrative, and that when bad ideas come to the surface, the bad ideas have to be talked about. And this is where I really appreciate you coming onto a podcast first and foremost. I think all sheriffs, most sheriffs, I think across the country, I think percentage-wise, still Democrat, right? I think numbers-wise.
I've never even looked at that number. I wouldn't say. I know Indiana. It's I don't think I'm 1 of 8, maybe 1 of 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so it's kind of the circle. I mean, the media has been terrible from time to time. Social media is really bad because just like the pattern recognition and the things that you get on, that if you watch these things where people are getting beat up by the police, or there is a case in California where a police officer acted badly, that gets broadcast across the globe in 5 seconds.
And that's a great point. What you're hitting on there is that everything's local now.
Yeah.
And you see police misconduct.
Doesn't matter where it is.
Minneapolis, Seattle, Portland, wherever. You see a cop doing something bad, it's on your phone. Ugh. And then we get painted with that brush. And I can't tell you the number of times that someone has been on our Facebook page seeing nasty things about the sheriff's office. Like, that wasn't us. We didn't do that. Yeah. But I get it because we're seen as some kind of a monolith where it's like I am not some other department 3 states over. That's not us. Every department, every agency, every office has its own morality, its own ethos, its own culture. And it's harmful to the profession, definitely, when you get lumped in with some agency somewhere else that doesn't have their act together, and it harms recruitment overall for everybody, and we suffer for it.
Well, I'll go ahead.
I was just saying, I think the court of public opinion has become definitely more difficult. I did want to say, last podcast I talked about how that eyesore under the Lloyd Expressway on First, where it said ACAB. Somebody painted over it. I didn't do it, but somebody did. Thank God. Thankfully.
Are you just saying? Was it white? Is it painted white? Because isn't that what you said you were going to go buy?
No, it's painted like a gray. It's not quite the right. It's not quite the same.
I think
color.
you're just trying to.
But every time my wife drove past that, she got so angry. My daughter finally started asking about it, and so we had to try to explain sort of that a little bit. But where I was wanting to kind of go with that is not only are these clips, they could be clips of bad things happening, which absolutely happen.
They absolutely happen.
But I think what I see more often are people who edit the clips in a way that make it look worse than it really is.
They frequently lack context.
I don't know.
They frequently lack context. That's for sure. That's for sure. And let's face it, and our officers and deputies are all aware of this. Using force on someone it looks ugly sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to use force on someone and have it look good,
Look pretty.
I mean, it's an inherently violent act.
Absolutely.
But
Which is necessary.
but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah.
But what an agency has to do is have really strict controls in place when that kind of violence is used. And so I believe the term sometimes gets thrown around as police violence. But that's a specific kind of violence. That's unlawful violence, right? That's a crime, and that needs to be prosecuted, and people need to be held accountable.
But also,
Do you mean against an officer, or the officer doing
the officer?
violence?
The police violence. The officer engaging in criminal conduct, engaging in violence,
Yep.
the officer needs to be held accountable for that.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different ways we can go right here. I want to finish my point on
Please.
Democrat leaders need to self-police. Like the bad talking of police generally, we all know there's bad elements in
Every industry.
Every industry has really, really good ones and really, really bad ones. Most people are decent and have great intentions. Some people get stuck in really crappy situations. We had a local incident just recently. I don't know where it is on that spectrum because I haven't seen the evidence yet. But at the end of the day, what happens is you've got leaders from the city that are, that are minority leaders, or they're in these groups and they've got all these people that are coming and barking, and it just turns into this unstoppable force. And it seems like it's a huge problem, and it's really not. And just to add another layer to that, the AI element of, I could probably go create a video that looks like you doing something really bad to someone, and it's really not you. And we got to have to deal with that real fast.
That's already here and it's already coming. But to pick up on a thread, people have a right to be upset when they perceive the police have used force inappropriately or unlawfully. And I get where that anger comes from. And I get when something happens locally that it may seem like, here we are again. Here, we rinse and repeat. Another instance where a law enforcement officer has used force and someone's died. But every time that this happens, I mean, you have to judge every one of these instances on its own, in its own context, and handle that individually based on the fact pattern of that specific incident. Can you imagine if our prosecutor prosecuted crimes based on what somebody else did or what somebody else did before then, or somebody? It has to be handled specifically with the facts as they are presented on that specific incident, and you cannot leap to conclusions. We don't arrest someone and put them in jail before we have evidence they've committed a crime. And we certainly don't publicize, I would not ever take a suspect and put their name out there as a suspect. It's so rare we would ever do that. There has to be very strict criteria met for putting somebody's name out there as a suspect, unless we're actively seeking them for an arrest. And so I worry sometimes when the Facebook mob,
Keyboard warriors
get on there and just run the cops down endlessly, even folks not even from around here, and
maybe a lot of bots, honestly,
and
maybe not even real people.
But
I catch fake people all the time.
They're out there.
Yeah.
It's I did a post about this recently on my page about I think I called it like a no-win scenario. This idea that an officer can do everything right, but have made a reasonable, thought he saw something, perceived it, took the appropriate action. And it's just sometimes it just doesn't work out, right? And it doesn't work out because we are forced to operate in this pressure cooker of a scenario where you have to make these split-second decisions based on imperfect information under incredible amounts of stress. And boy, would you want to sign up to do that job? Would you want to sign up to expose yourself to that level of risk and ridicule? The only way you would do that and be sane to do that is you felt like you had some protections, like I'm going to be fairly judged by a prosecutor who's going to consider all the facts. And we have a great prosecutor that will do just that. We have a community that is not willing to always give officers the benefit of the doubt if they don't deserve it, but at least withhold judgment and support the police until the facts are known, and then look to those police if there was a mistake made, to hold those officers accountable. But if there was no mistake made, then stand behind their officer. I've seen nothing so far that would indicate that our chief of police and our mayor aren't doing exactly that. I think I'm happy with the way they've handled some of the situations that have arisen here in Evansville, and I would do the same thing. And I told my deputies recently, I will back you. I will back you 100% unless you break the law or you flagrantly violate our policy. But sometimes deputies and officers make mistakes. Just like a surgeon might nick an artery during a surgery, not intentionally. An airline pilot might forget to set a setting on their airplane that caused a change in elevation unexpectedly. these are training issues. These are human performance limitations. And if we're looking for superhuman people that don't make mistakes to become law enforcement officers, good luck. You might as well hire a robot, because you're not going to get it.
Oh, you're trying to slide me right into RoboCop. We're going to RoboCop Terminator, right into it. So before we go into kind of, the recruiting, I mean, the recruiting is an overlap issue that to me could turn into a lot of my AI concern and tech tyranny concerns from a police state perspective. And because that's something I'm very pro officer. I mean, I don't know of a police officer that I don't like.
I'm pro good police officer.
I'm pro. Well, of course, I'm pro good people.
I know what you're saying.
I'm pro good people. How about
good
that?
people.
Good people. And
I like professionals.
But we respect
who
the
do their
badges.
job professionally.
even the best of people put in the worst of situations has to make insta-second.
Yes.
There is no. In this last case, I won't get into the details of it because we could go either way. But the gentleman who unfortunately was killed by an officer.
I feel horrible for his.
It's a tragedy.
Terrible. Absolute tragedy.
And there's people looking at the footage and saying we didn't give enough time. The gentleman was holding something that looked like a gun.
If you have a gun pointed at you, you have to give them 5 seconds, 10 seconds. How much time do you give them to drop it?
There is no perfect whatever. And like my big concern with this one is from a recruiting perspective, it's just another one of those things. Then, there's the doxing issue, which I'm not even, I don't know this police officer. I haven't seen the evidence. I'm not saying he was right, wrong. I'm assuming he was right until proven otherwise. That's kind of what our justice system is about.
I was speaking in generalities earlier.
No, yeah, I know.
And we're wise not to really delve into that specific case. Number one, wasn't my agency. And I want to wait to see how the facts play out.
Yep.
Well, I mean, from a recruiting perspective, again, if and I'm just, this is just the harsh reality of it. If I'm thinking about becoming an officer, and this incident, first of all, I put myself in that officer's shoes, and it's affected and changed his life forever.
Yeah.
And the PTSD, the things that you can never undo. Should I did this right? Did I do this right, or could I give it in another half second or a second? You're going to do that for the rest of your life, whether you were absolutely right doing what you're doing or not. Then add the level of the doxing of here he is. And so you've got public ridicule that'll never go away. Yeah. He's got to worry about where he walks out into public. This is a problem I really see. I don't know why that's the position to make it public. I understand he has to go through, or whoever's involved needs to go through, the investigation piece of it. That's rigorous and bad enough. I'm sure it's got to be gut wrenching.
Sure. Yeah.
But to be judged by public like that, and I don't know why releasing the body footage right now was really the right thing to do. There's a lot of things that I question just from the perspective is I want my kids to be safe 20 years from now. And if you can't unwind a clock. Once you have a process and this is what you do, you're damaging that relationship with that person that was thinking about it, whether you are or not. That's not intentional, right? So how do you that's got to be a conversation that we're having in society. It's not your job to figure it out, Sheriff. You're a smart guy, but we need everyone having this conversation together and saying, what do we do? Do you really not want cops on the streets? How does that ever work out, and how is it ever good? So,
well, we're butting up against what often comes up when these topics are discussed. I've seen some of these comments on Facebook. It's like, well, we need to end qualified immunity. We need to reform the Indiana Tort Claims Act to remove protections for government employees against being sued personally. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm having a hard enough time recruiting as it is, and now you're going to tell me that I could be personally sued for not a criminal. I mean, I can under the current law, I'm sued.
You can be sued for anything.
If I violate the law, if I break a law, commit a criminal act, or I do so with intentionality, I can be personally sued either under federal 1983 or Indiana Tort Claims Act. But my gosh, to ask a police officer to go on these runs that are tense, rapidly unfolding, just require immediate judgment calls to be made, and then say, oh, by the way, if you get it wrong, we're taking your house, your car, and we're going to bankrupt you. No one would be a police officer in those circumstances. It wouldn't happen. And so I chuckle a bit when I hear someone say we need to end QI, qualified immunity. It's like, number one, I don't think they really understand what it does and what its limitations are. Again, you can still sue the government as they call it a Monell claim under 1983. You can still sue the agency, certainly, but it does provide some limited protections for an officer who didn't know that his activity was unconstitutional, because we operate in those gray areas and where the constitutionality of a given action may not be firmly set yet. And so I hear someone say getting rid of those protections is just kind of, you've obviously never done this job. And if you did, you wouldn't want to get out of your cruiser on a run if you thought that the one wrong move you make, an honest mistake, might result in personal liability for your family. Who would be crazy enough to take a job under those circumstances?
It's a great question. I know I wouldn't. I don't like the best case scenario is you just did everything right and you get to go home and no one knows anything different.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like best case.
Yeah.
Well, the airline pilots, they never get any credit for landing 1,000 times, but boy, you crash one plane, you're judged.
And you become a terrible pilot.
And you're terrible. And I get it. And sometimes if I talk like this, or I think I don't want to be misconstrued as saying, well, I'm a cop apologist, or I feel like cops can't do anything wrong. Oh, quite the contrary. I mean, when we screw up, yes, hold us accountable. I'll tell you an interesting stat. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we have a module that we use at the sheriff's office. We call it the complaint module, aptly named, right? And we were not consistent about how we use that module. And so complaints, when I came in office, they skyrocketed. They went from a couple of dozen a year to hundreds a year. And so you might think, well, my gosh, the sheriff comes in office here and now complaints of orders of magnitude more. Well, no, we're just tracking the data now. And so by doing that, we're holding people accountable. And I'm all about holding our officers and deputies accountable and getting rid of somebody who's a bad apple. I have done it. I've had to do it before. I don't enjoy it, but I've had to do it. But that's the beauty of an elected position, whether it's a mayor or a sheriff. If the community as a whole feels like they're not holding their police department accountable, if they feel like they got a rogue agency, vote them out.
I agree. So there's a bunch of different angles here, and generally, I think recruiting, I didn't think it was going to, like, before you brought it up, I'm like, well, I've been a business owner. I understand hiring good people is difficult. Keeping good people is difficult.
Even more difficult.
There's, the industry that I have been in for 20 years, it's a flat earth, really. I mean, I started off, taught myself how to build websites. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I have an education degree, and I did it because there was no web development whenever I was in college. That dates me. But at the end of the day, I had to start, hiring people and then competing on price with clients who were getting bids from India and China and outsourced companies who did the lowest offer. And here I am trying to hire the best of the best, pay them as much as I possibly can to keep them and still get enough clients to
keep the lights on.
Yeah, keep the lights on for the business, and make my wife not have to work so hard. But my industry was impacted, I think, well before. I mean, obviously, recruiting hasn't been as bad. You just told the story of the timeline.
Never been like this.
Recruiting never really was bad. It was hard because I have an interesting company and I was able to hire great people. I'm a good team guy. I mean, I love recruiting. I love coaching, and that showed. But at the end of the day, you also, you have to retain. But you guys are in a unique spot, and I have a clip here that's probably a little edgy, and I was going to frame it in a way that I thought would be good to the argument, but I don't know how to do that because it is very touchy. It is very. I don't know if you've heard the name Nick Fuentes.
Oh, I'm familiar with him.
Okay, so he's very
I know that guy.
Very edgy guy. But what has been interesting about, first of all, everyone trying to cancel him, and he's got very hard views on some things I completely do not agree with.
Yeah,
however,
I would agree.
He's got a significant amount of people that feel beaten down by the narrative in our society. My kids are in that society. My kids are young white males, and let's listen to this clip. I just want to get your general thing because, again, we're talking about we live in a city that it is it's majority white, right? I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I mean, I think we're not a big city, so we're probably about where we should be numbers wise. I don't even know what it means.
Well, I mean, I last time I checked the stats, I think we're somewhere probably around 75% Caucasian.
Okay.
13%.
Well, you knew that better than I did. For sure.
That's a rough guess from what I remember.
But again, I'm looking at morale. I'm looking at how to inspire my own kids to be excited to get up and do things, and to not be beaten down by these things that they hear from these stupid phones. And this is why Fuentes has gained this thing, and why it's interesting to me is a lot of his audience is your potential workforce. And so I want you to listen to it with that context, and don't agree with what Fuentes says just because he said some really awful things, and I don't agree with it. I can't say that enough. I don't agree with a lot of things that he says.
I will listen to anybody.
Yeah, you can learn a little bit.
I don't think listen to somebody. I am careful that I can see that there's some value in not platforming somebody who speaks hate. But I'm happy to listen to what the clip is here and give you my reaction.
Well, okay, so let's talk about. I want to come back to platforming because I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
and I have a lot of pushback on that. Because I think you push bad ideas down and you censor and you quiet people, and it comes back worse. You end up creating anytime we go extreme left or extreme right in any government across the world, you get a wicked backlash because you build a group of people that feel just like he feels, and you're telling them your opinion doesn't matter, you're wrong. And so he's got millions and millions of followers. So you got to be careful to say, I can't hear what he has to say and think some people might agree with him. That's really dangerous in my personal opinion. I would rather hear and say, that was a really stupid idea that you just said. Yeah. Let's push back on that. Let's have a conversation there. And then maybe he comes to the middle of it.
It's an interesting point you made. Of course, the counter to that might be sometimes though that if you've got someone that does have really extreme viewpoints, and then of course extreme is a perception. Who say what's extreme is not
extreme to who?
Extreme to who? But if you're saying something that community standards would tend to indicate is racist, homophobic, all the above, and I can get an example will be like Joe Rogan. He has guests on there sometimes that maybe don't have the best background in the topics they're talking about, but is throwing an idea as well. And then you get a doctor on there who's a subject matter expert and is an expert in their field, and you put them on next to each other. It's just kind of like, okay, well, are these folks equal? Is this person speaking from a place of ignorance? This person speaking from a place of knowledge? So you platform them both, giving equal time to both. And does the phone, by looking at this, you think, well, this guy has one opinion, this guy has a different opinion, but they're in no way the same thing because one is coming from a place of knowledge and one place is coming from a place of ignorance. It's interesting to me is by putting someone on the internet and giving them more space to speak. Are we, in fact, promoting the content that we find distasteful? And that's, I guess, a question for anybody who's got a podcast to ask.
Well, I mean, I think you create a blind spot if you. I don't like the term platforming first and foremost.
Yeah.
I mean, Tucker Carlson brought Nick Fuentes in. That's a big deal. But Nick Fuentes has a bigger audience than Tucker Carlson. He's got a bigger reach, and with I would say the more important segment of people that are dealing with how everything is changing so rapidly. And so I'm an older person myself, so I tend to lean to the older ideas and like, I'm smarter than you little whippersnapper. That doesn't make their reality any different.
Yeah.
Nothing that I say to them is going to change their perception of what's going on around them. And so again, just to ignore it and say, well, you're this silly white privileged kid, just stay where you're at. Well, I mean, that's basically what they feel like. That's what my kids have even said. This is the way I feel sometimes.
I never thought of it that way.
Well, how is it any different? I'm just kind of looking at it more of a I think it's more just technology has come around to allow this to happen, but I think it's still a First Amendment thing all around. Yeah. Just 100 years ago, people didn't have a platform to get on. Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't like what they say, just don't listen. I mean, just don't watch it. Don't listen. That's kind of more my take on a lot of that because, like you said, well, let's go to COVID for a second. If we think it's okay to either deplatform or not allow somebody to have a platform because of this reason, then it can become or this reason, or you said ivermectin, or now you're getting that guy. You're getting canceled. At what point
it happens really rapidly?
Yeah. So I was just kind of at what point does it? I don't know that fire in a crowded theater, you can't yell that.
Absolutely against the law.
That's a problem. Yeah. But I mean, somebody exercising their First Amendment right. Whether it's on the internet, whether it's in person, whether it's as long as there's no actual laws being broken, where do you draw the line, or how do you know where to draw that line?
It's not illegal to be racist, basically.
It's unfortunate, but
it's stupid. We all disagree with it. But and this is the other thing you can't say, and especially as a Democrat, there's racism on all sides.
Oh yeah,
there's racism going in all directions. We are a tribal people, and we've been that way for thousands and thousands of years. And you can't just wash that out of people. I mean, it is a inherent thing that we're in a tribe. We look like we look. I see somebody out there, they don't look like we look, and you're just like, well, that's different. And we're better and better. I mean, I taught my kids to not see color, even though our generations, 2 generations ago, talked about it all the time, and it was, throwing slurs around. I mean, we did a really, really good job of cleaning that up in our society, and yet it keeps getting brought back to the surface. But let's get into this clip, and then I just want you to digest it. And I don't even think, Fuentes has a little bit in this clip. But
is what happens when you spend an entire generation telling young white men that you're toxic, oppressive, and racist no matter what you do. Eventually they go, okay, I'll just be that. This is the inevitable outcome of identity politics that's downstream from critical theory. He's like very openly, like you said, like white nationalist. If you spend 20 years going, hey man, is it okay for black people to advocate for the black community? Yes. Is it okay for Hispanic people to advocate for the Hispanic community? Yes. Is it okay for this group to advocate for themselves? Yes. Is it okay for white people to advocate for themselves? Well, of course not. Well, everybody starts to go, well, that sounds really stupid.
Everybody, and in particular white people, cannot do the same thing, right? The post-World War II consensus is that you cannot organize on the basis of race, because that leads to the Holocaust.
Now, what Christians have historically gone is we've gone, hey man, again, this is the difference between Christian theology and critical theory. In critical theory, it's group identities and who's oppressed and who's the oppressor. In Christianity, we're like, no, we evaluate people as individuals. It's not the color of your skin, it's the content of your character. I don't care what color you are. I don't care where you came from. I don't care what your cultural background is. It's the content of your character, who you are as a man or a woman. It's the accidental outbirthing of identity politics, and eventually it births into white identity politics. This is what happens.
So it just so happens you're a sociology major. Is that what you said, sociology?
Yeah. Well,
okay. And so this is a really interesting concept of where we are. And it's, I know it is a very uncomfortable, touchy subject, and a lot of people won't even touch on it. But we are talking about a division, like Unite the Divided is the name of the podcast, because I try to pull down the curtain and get rid of this back and forth. Right versus left, to me, most of the time is just ridiculous. I talk about topics, right? And you got to look at the ugly things that Nick Fuentes says, and you got to look at the ugly things that are said on the other side.
And there are some.
And the woke cancellation is sit down and shut up. He's this, dismiss him, don't platform him. I'm not saying that's not a cut on you. That's just
I get it.
That's just our kids. My kids have grown up feeling this way, and I don't know what to do about that, except to say you just have to be kind. You have to be fair. If you get labeled or called something that you're not, stand up for yourself. You don't know me that well,
certainly,
but I am not going to just sit back and let my kid be called something that he's absolutely not. And so, luckily he's not been around people that have done that to him, but these things they see online and this narrative that they hear that you're bad, we need to hire these people or whatever. It's just hit. My concern, my thought back to your recruitment is it's part of the issue. I have no doubt in my mind that it is a part of the issue. I don't know how big of a part, but there is this thing that they feel they're going to go out and do something and they're going to be judged differently. And so I don't know how to get around that. We don't have enough people of black people or Hispanic people or Asian people in the city of Evansville that want to be police officers. How do you deal with that
current
disparity?
stage? I don't have enough people of any race that want to be police officer.
Yeah.
And we have active. Yes, I am a Democrat, and we can get into the merits of DEI or what that actually means, but I've never felt that actively trying to recruit minorities was somehow displacing someone else from having a job. And I hear the point that he's making there. Does that exist on the internet? Does that exist in the sphere that he's being broadcast on the internet, where kids are looking at this on their phone? And to what degree does that actually reflect reality that this child is actually experiencing in real life? And I think about my son. has he been disadvantaged in some way by DEI practices? Has he been disadvantaged by affirmative action? Has he applied for a job that he didn't get, that went to somebody else who was less qualified? And I think sometimes the rhetoric around affirmative action or DEI exceeds the reality of it. And I'm not convinced that. I know when I applied to be a police officer, I didn't feel like that I was being shortchanged or cut out in favor of a minority at all. I do see value, particularly in law enforcement, in aggressive recruitment of minorities, because and you mentioned earlier about how the population of Vanderburgh County and Evansville is a majority Caucasian. And law enforcement, in some respects, should probably represent the best of our ability, the proportion of racial componentry of the community,
overlapped by meritocracy. With
complete meritocracy on that.
Well, I think two things can be right at the same time, though, I think you're absolutely right. I think you should aggressively recruit people of all persuasions, and that will help change the perception in our communities about having equal distribution of whatever. I have no argument for that at all. I will tell you, though, as an education major, someone that decided not to become a teacher for very specific reasons, that I've done a lot of research, and there absolutely is college entrance exams and outgoing things that things are changed based on color, everything else. There absolutely are things being done as far as bringing people into certain schools, a certain number, not how smart are you meritocracy, but do you fit these profiles? And I'm not saying that's necessarily anything that's happening in Evansville or at the age you came in. I don't think it was that big. I don't think that it was really a thing. Really,
the favorite refrain for somebody that I used to hear this sometimes is, and I heard this before I applied to the police department and later the sheriff's office, and I heard this even after. I heard this from several people. It wasn't just a one-off. Was I didn't get the job because they gave it to they wanted to have more minorities.
Yeah,
and it's like, and like, did they? Did they? That's funny, because the group I came on with had all white guys and one girl. And it's just like that became almost like a scapegoat for why you didn't get the job.
Right.
Like you feel like you didn't get the job you wanted. What can I blame?
Yeah.
What can I blame? Some minority got it.
I think you're hitting on it again. Two things can be simultaneously right at the same time. And was that person right or wrong in that moment? Who knows? It's hard to go back and judge at that moment. True. And everybody feels that they're going to be slighted. And probably there was more of that on the racial side for blacks historically,
right.
But I don't think that's really there anymore. I feel that we are very much meritocratic. I only hired meritocracy. It had nothing to do with where you're from. I didn't care if you went to school. I didn't, like Elon Musk hires people. He said, "Are you going to have to go to college?" Like a lot of the smartest people that are tech billionaires dropped out of Harvard, dropped out of these places because they already had the things they needed to do the jobs that they were going to do.
I do wonder sometimes that, are we in this rush to be post-racial? I mean, America, has a long history of some really horrible things in our past and even our recent past. And I'm not convinced we've wiped that stain away yet. And then we haven't been really more than one generation past Jim Crow. And I think that America still has a lot of reckoning to do with its racially divided past. And I'm just not convinced that this idea that DEI bad, get rid of. I don't buy that. I think it has its place.
Again, two things can be right at the same time.
True enough.
And all I'm telling you is perception wise, if your recruiting pool is 75% white, 13% whatever, and the young white kids have this perception is reality.
Yeah.
And you can argue the reality of the merits is actually how it happened in any given moment and whose fault it was. I can tell you one thing. It's not my kid's fault what happened in Jim Crow.
True.
It's none of these Nick Fuentes fans have ever owned a slave.
Absolutely.
None of their parents have ever owned a slave. Yeah. And so I'm not saying there isn't some legitimacy of the conversation. How do you ever wipe out bad behavior that happened? That is a construct of something that is completely non-American. Like our laws, our justice system is based on Christian principles, meaning your bloodline cannot carry criminality into you. If your parent did a crime, that doesn't mean you're guilty. That's what they do in China. Like if you get in a social credit situation, this is one of the things that we can go into. If your family, your dad is labeled this, your whole family has a stain and it can't escape it. Our system is uniquely created to not do that. And so all I'm saying is there is a thing going on that there's not enough pushback in from the Democratic side, I'll say, but I think not enough for the Republican side really understand enough to talk smart about it. I'm talking about from a moral values, not a moral, like a feeling of I want to participate. I feel like I'm going to be equally judged in this society. I feel like I can go out and do this thing and I'm going to be rewarded over time. I feel like this particular narrative is something I don't think the Democratic side has really dug into enough. And the danger of not talking and listening to the Nick Fuentes, not about him, but about the people that are following him that don't even know what racism is really. I mean, we've grown up watching all the movies. We have friends. My kids have never thought about race until they're told that their parents did this, their grandparents or whatever. And so you this is what you get. I guess here's the question. It's that perception.
Using Nick Fuentes as the example, for a child who's never felt that like have been singled out, I never felt that they were being put down upon, or that policies, whether it's DEI or whatever you want to call it, have impacted them in a negative way. How many experienced that firsthand before someone like Nick Fuentes came on and started talking about it? And then, so is Nick discussing this? Is he the vessel of these feelings that folks have and they go to him to hear more about that? Or is he out there spreading the idea of this and then folks are internalizing that based on what he's saying?
Well, it's not him. He's not the oracle of it.
No, not at all.
And I hadn't heard about Nick Fuentes. Probably it's been less than a year. And I've been hearing this general feeling from my sons for more than that.
We were more Charlie Kirk folks in this room.
Yeah, and that was him. He was just bringing people together as Christians. Mm-hmm. And
I miss Charlie already.
I think the real problem with, I don't care if you're a Christian or not. Do I think we need more Christians? I don't know. I think we need more people with moral Christian values, and that's just my personal opinion. That's why we have freedom of speech. We can argue right, wrong, or indifferent. But again, what I'm saying is,
I'm a Christian, but I have Jewish friends, I have Muslim friends, and I care more about your values, as in, are you a good person? I think religion has its place, and I of course I have my beliefs, and I go to church, but I don't know that one religion necessarily has the claim on morality.
No, we have freedom of religion. That's what I'm saying. Like,
beautiful part of our country.
One of the greatest. We are the greatest nation on the planet for a lot of reasons.
You are absolutely right.
And I don't know. I just don't want to rush over this because I feel it's super important. And I know there's been a lot of other people talking about it, podcasters talking about it, but we are in my backyard now, and I want my kids to live here. And I want there to be safe streets. I don't want there to be RoboCops. I don't want there to be drones outside of my house. So there's a lot of things we need to get to that are really important, I guess.
Absolutely.
But we still do need humans in sheriff's uniforms.
We do.
And I think, again, it's...
And I don't care what color they are. I don't care what religion they are. I just want good people.
I think it's more dangerous to decide we shouldn't platform that person than it is to actually platform. And again,
I never had considered that.
I'm looking at it through my kids' eyes. Not my kids. I don't think my kids know Nick Fuentes. But if you say you're wrong because you understand, I'm sure his fans don't agree with everything he has to say. That's the other thing. You catch people on a fringe talking about one off topic, and you're like, whoa, I didn't see that come. Joe Rogan says some crazy stuff. He's actually also very smart, and he asks some really good questions.
Entertaining.
He's entertaining.
Sure.
He can talk about a wide variety of things at a very not super deep level, but
But I don't particularly care what the flat earther has to say on his podcast.
But again, it's his job of putting someone on there is like he calls them out on BS, and then he'll have the person that comes on and proves them wrong.
Yeah.
And then the cool thing about AI and how all these different systems come together is like we can have AI agents having them debate without them actually debating. And so the guy can learn that he was wrong because he went out and said what he wanted to say. And this other group of people said, well, you're wrong because of this, this, and this. And here's the science. Well, that's how you flush that bad idea out.
That's a very valid point you just made.
Well, I mean, I'm doing it because I want the sheriff's office in your, if I'm assuming you're going to win the next election, hopefully you do. The person after you is going to be dealing with these same things unless we hit all of the topics. And again, I'm calling on, you're the first Democrat, not the first Democrat. You're the first person that is a party person that will come in and talk about these things. And I think that's hugely important because we all live in echo chambers.
We do.
The fact that you just heard my argument, you're like,
I never thought of it.
I got to take the perspective. And from a recruiting perspective, I mean, we're only talking about recruiting. We're not talking about depression and anxiety and drugs and why they're doing these things. Because, why are they looking at this and they're not engaging? Because it's hitting on something and it's going to continue to get better. And so I'm challenging people like you, and you seem very open to the talking about it, to go have conversations with your own people. And say, like, if we don't moderate and police ourselves a little bit, we need to look at the big picture of what this is doing. Now, are we fighting for social justice across the world in the city of Evansville in this moment? I mean, what are we really doing by kind of saying, well, we had a lot of stuff wrong, so we have to continue saying these things and doing these things, and that's just a repetitive whack over the head of our kids. I mean, to me,
I view it more of just kind of understanding where somebody else might be coming from. And I can't have someone else's experience. I'm never going to know what it's like to have a grandfather who's black and may have suffered under Jim Crow. I'll never have that perspective. And so, to your point, platforming people who have ideas you didn't necessarily agree with, but also acknowledging that someone else may have a lived experience that is different from you. And, and you're fully acknowledging that right now. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. And in understanding that there are some groups in our society that have historically felt like the police is not necessarily they're looking out for them. I got to acknowledge that. If I ignore that, I can't provide good police service to folks. And I tell our deputies to go out there and win folks over. Go out there and win folks over. Give them the best service you can. Treat them with absolute respect and treat everybody with respect. But having the knowledge in your head and understanding that some folks have had a different experience with the police historically than you have is incredibly valuable. And it's a way of managing your micro judgments. And, when you see somebody walking towards you that looks very different from you, it's human nature to have a micro reaction. But I've spent many years just kind of working through that and training myself not to have an automatic negative thought because of some bias I have. And I truly do believe that these internal biases that are sometimes kind of hidden or just beneath the surface, back from our days of, in the jungle and being scared of noises, it's how you saw the world and how you prevented yourself from being eaten by a tiger. And I think that, some part of that reptile brain, that survivalist instinct is still there. But when you start just taking everybody, not necessarily judgmentally on their appearance, it goes a long way. And that's something police have to do. They have to be aware of their own internal biases. And there've been plenty of studies to show this. That can be taught, that can be trained. But it isn't in the slightest mean that I'm trying to say that to cram something down somebody's throat, trying to make them feel guilty for the sins of their ancestors. Not at all.
Travis?
Not at all.
Yeah, I'm going to say I want to push back, but it's not really pushback. It's not really pushback. It's more, I feel like that blame can be placed on both sides of that equation.
Sir, absolutely. But my goal is to I'm training police. So I can't.
True. You can't train the public.
Train with the public.
That's
Good
true.
Lord, I wish I could. I'd be out of a job. But I can train police officers to recognize these biases and provide better service and maybe change it long term.
That's very true. That I hear where you're coming from there. But I mean, I don't know where the disrespect. I think you hit on a little bit of why there's some disrespect, and that's because. But I don't believe it's firsthand. I believe a lot of it's secondhand.
Some of it is, without a doubt.
I don't think that there's going to be a 20-year-old kid who has never had a interaction with a police officer just immediately saying "F the Po," but they do, and so a lot of that has to do with it could be other friends, it could be maybe older siblings that have had run-ins, it could be family, it could be whatever, but I teach my daughter to. I mean, we respect the blue or the brown, as I guess you're the UPS of the. No,
they identify as both colors.
But I mean, what can brown do for you?
Yeah, right. Do you get to drive do you get to race the truck? No.
Love to.
No. Do you remember those commercials? Anyway, you know, we raise her to be very respectful to, and she's never had a run-in. She's never had a good or bad run-in. We make sure to let her know that if she's ever in trouble, these are the people that are going to help you. If you know, whatever it might be. And the disrespect to anybody wearing a badge irritates the crap out of me. Especially around here, I don't think you're going to get. I mean, you're going to see people like maybe like the George Floyd incident, or somewhere in California or somewhere in wherever. You're going to see bad things happen, but around here, you don't normally see that kind of interaction happen.
That's a really good point you just raised there, which is, yeah, we're not Ferguson, Missouri here, right? And so painting, as I alluded to earlier, was this broad brush somehow that because some cop did something wrong somewhere means that all cops are bad. It's just it's a ridiculous notion. And then without a doubt, whether you want to trace it back to Ferguson and how it went from there, it does seem to be where our law enforcement recruitment problem started taking a dive, a slow progression downward, and it's gone nowhere good from then. And we've experienced it even locally with relatively close with the Breonna Taylor incident. We're always just one bad incident away from losing ground that I feel like we've gained. But I have always believed that it's my job as the sheriff and even as a deputy to make these what I would call deposits in that bank of community trust. And that is, you do it by excellence, being fair to everybody, following the law, solving crimes, making people feel like you care about them because you do care about them, and treating everybody as well as you can, and winning folks over one contact at a time. So when you do have a controversial shooting, that I remember that deputy. He wouldn't shoot somebody that without just cause, and because you've had these contacts and you've spent the time building those relationships and making people trust your department. And you show me a department or a city that's ready to string up a cop somewhere in Australia, right or wrong, I'll show you a community that has had historically bad relations with the police. And some of that is not always the community's fault. Some of that is a poorly run police department.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. That's why I said both sides of the equation. And I get why you were just hitting on the police officer side, because that's all you really have control of. That's the only variable you can control.
It's the only variable I can have much of an impact on.
Right. But I feel like there's too much disrespect also for the badge.
I don't disagree. But I will say Evansville is more often than not, and my deputies say the same thing, and even the Evansville police officers that I know said the same thing. When they're in a restaurant, people say hi to them. I can't tell you the number of free meals that the folks have bought me. I wish they wouldn't do it, but hey, your meal.
I even do it sometimes.
There's some ex-officers, man. They make a living off of getting free food.
I'm not gonna lie. We might be like Wendy's or something. We'll do that.
But folks in Evansville, it's Evansville. It's not these other cities, you know. Sure. So I wish I could market that to when I'm recruiting folks. It's like, this is a pretty special place, and that sounds like I'm hopelessly biased because I'm from here and I love this city, but it's not the same as other jurisdictions.
Well, here's the thing, you know, no policy or opinion is perfect. Everything has trade-offs, right? And so I think one of the problems that we've gotten involved in, especially with the internet and how everything spreads in a minute, I mean, there may be some usage for DEI type of programs in some markets and some ideas, some areas. However, again, it's just another one of those things. It's a trade-off. You are telling, whether you think you are or not, because, you know, our kids have access to information. They have access to everything all the time at once. And they hear messages, and like, I think you said it, like a TikTok. You know, it's a TikTok clip.
Yep.
And if they hear one thing and they say, well, what is this for? It's not their fault if they don't fully understand the intention of the underlying policy and what it's trying to do. All they do is see the perception of what they believe it is. And you could probably easily come back and say, well, is it actually what's happening or not? It doesn't really matter. It's just another thump on the head to you know, I would love for one of my kids to become a police officer. I would have loved if they decided they wanted to do that. I would have been very supportive of that. Until I even myself, I'm like, would I want them to go through some of the stuff that they're having to go through? And so, like, how do we fix that is the question. And that's where I'm just going to push back on your Democrat friends for self-policing. What works? What you talked about Ferguson. You talked about these events that blew up and George Floyd.
Yeah,
those are cities far, far away from here that they're not dynamically anywhere close to what we are. They don't have the makeup. They don't have. There's nothing that's similar almost at all, right? Except for little bitty fringe things or whatever. And yet we all have to treat it like, well, we could be Ferguson tomorrow. No, we can't.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
And I will make this point. When we had protests, we had BLM protests in Evansville, and we were gearing up for that. And we were working with the Evansville Police Department, and we were worried that there might be violence downtown, or that some windows would be smashed, and there was 2 days of protests. The first one was relatively minor. Some of the crowd got a little bit unruly, but nothing too bad. And the big one the next day. And so we were smart. I mean, we didn't go out there and stand on the street and make ourselves a target. We gave folks an opportunity to go out there and make their case, make protest. We stood behind, away, not out of public view, but ready to respond. And we didn't have so much as a trash can knocked over. Nothing happened. And then the next day, everyone was gone. I always support the right of folks to protest and for whatever their cause is. But Evansville, again, going back to, is just kind of a special place. Even when you have people out there doing protests under what might be considered pretty charged, it never seems to rise to the level of what we see in some of these other markets.
I made the mistake of going to Indianapolis. And man, that was a whole different story.
A little different there.
Oh my gosh! I mean, there was really nice buildings with windows complete knocked out, boards, and so that tainted me a little bit.
Literally pisses me off.
That put me on edge.
It pisses me off when I see that.
Well, and having looked back at it now, what you just said is like that's really wasn't ever going to happen in Evansville unless you got a small group of people that were just going to do.
You never know,
or out of towners.
It's so easy to co-opt a group. You get a few people, jackasses in there.
Yeah. It doesn't. You're right. I mean, you definitely can have a powder keg moment for sure. And luckily, we avoided that. And thank you for handling that. First of all, for bringing it up and telling people how good the people of Evansville
they are.
Even the people that I would disagree with, probably certainly. If we had a conversation, okay. I'd love to sit down and talk about them, and we can talk about why the things are different and all that.
But you had mentioned that about this idea about defund the police, and that did seem like a popular mantra for a while. But I mean, I've been to plenty of Democrat meeting, and none of the Dems that I would talk to that were at any of the meetings all thought that was the stupidest slogan ever. It certainly didn't reflect anything from our local party. And even when some of the state party folks would come in, none of them were supportive of this idea of defunding the police. They openly laughed about how.
I think in Indiana you get run right out of Indiana for something like that.
but when I was running though,
but you still have the funding coming into the party at higher levels and in the cities. And I'm not saying you can even self-police a Democrat in California, in LA, because you're just not. You don't have the influence there. Yeah. They're going to do what they're going to do.
It's described as a big tent.
Yeah. But you got to push back locally.
But I agree. I feel like the party did. And our party, I think, locally has done a great job of putting out the narrative that we support cops. But importantly, we support good cops.
Good cops.
And but we're not going to, and nor would I it's not ride or die back the blue. I'm not going to support a bad police officer who makes bad decisions and does something really horrible. That's why it was, when you talk about what happened to George Floyd, and you had some in the law enforcement community that thought that ended badly because they felt the conviction that was obtained in that case was unjust. And it's like, no, anybody who saw the video, I trust a jury. I trust a jury to make a right decision. I think they made a right decision in that case. There's a line there you can't cross, and that cop crossed it, and he's going to have to pay for that for a long time, and deservedly slow. You do have to hold cops accountable sometimes, because if you don't, you end up with a situation like what happened down there in Memphis when those guys were chasing that kid out of that car there and just beat the Jesus out of him and ended up killing him. You've got to make an example, but cops have to be clearly shown that there are repercussions for behaving in a criminal manner, and I'm all about that accountability. But I'm also about defending my guys when they're just trying to do their job, and they're being unfairly maligned. And so that's never something that I'm going to stand for.
I feel like we've hit this topic pretty well. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I try to get to different talking points that sometimes challenge the people that sit across from me to think, and that's why I listen to everybody. because I feel like if I'm just listening to people that I agree with, which is what your phone tries to do to you.
Your phone does.
Your phone is, man, it knows what you want to hear. And so I appreciate you listening to that. No. And I mean, we could have 100 conversations like this. And I think, if we can have the ongoing, I don't know if it's a healing process. I don't know what we expect.
Well, it's okay to have a different take on something.
Oh yeah.
And that's like, it doesn't mean like we can't get along and do great things. It's like this idea that I've got to convince this person of my point of view on this. Otherwise I can't work with them. And that's just ridiculous. That's,
well, I mean, recruiting is recruiting, and there's a cause, there's a reason why it's not going well. Mm-hmm. And so if we keep on looking at the same things and nothing is changing, that's the definition of insanity. We're just over and over again. We're not doing it. And so let's pivot.
Where's the starting page, real quick, as the last thing? Where's usually a starting
Not to
page?
tell you how to run your show here, but you had mentioned you wanted to hit on some of the AI issues. Flock was one of them, I believe you talked about.
100%.
You mentioned drones.
Yep.
I'm up for anything, though. You tell me what you want to chat about.
Yeah, so well, you came to me with some concerns as well. So I don't know if most people understand what Flock is, what it was.
Give a brief primer about what that is.
So my general concern, my umbrella view of it is, I think it probably has some really good usages. I think it's probably helped us in a lot of ways, from a technology standpoint, and from knowing where the technology comes from. Everything's hackable. Nothing is secure, really. And so my ultimate concern is not what's going to happen under your administration necessarily, but the continuity of what is our plan for creeping AI and creeping tech tyranny. We start with good intentions. Everybody wants to be safer, but there's a lot of founding fathers that will tell you that, if you trade off things for safety, a lot of times you're going to end up with everything but being safe.
Trade freedom for safety, you deserve neither.
That is something I really take to heart, and especially in a massively rapid changing environment, which we're getting ready to hit. And so tell us what Flock is now. I don't even want to influence what I think, where I think it's going, except for what I just told you.
Sure.
You could tell me what your concerns were based on why you said, Chad, let's have this conversation.
Well,
before we do that, let's pause real quick. Can you hit the pause button?
Break?
Hit the pause button. Yeah. Woo.
Feel better now?
Oh boy. I think me and Sheriff both feel better now.
Unnecessary.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to get more water.
There you go.
Because we're both very
H2O.
That's right. All right. So Sheriff, you were getting ready to start talking a little bit about Flock. and where we are and where we're going.
Well, for those folks who don't know what Flock is, they look like kind of like I would describe as a solar-powered bird feeder kind of looking thing on the side of the road. Is that a good description of what one looks like? Okay.
I think of like a solar-powered ring cam, but same difference. That's exactly what it is.
It's kind of what it looks like. There are about 52 of them out in the county and probably about another 50 in the city limits. This is a network that was originally started by EPD. I don't know how many years that has been, maybe 5 years ago. We came on board maybe 3 years ago. The idea behind this is that it captures the license plate and a picture of a vehicle, of every vehicle that drives past it day or night, and then stores that image in a database that's in the cloud. And then after 30 days, that image is irrevocably deleted. It cannot be retrieved after 30 days. It is AI powered. It has the ability to search for plates using AI technology. It has the ability to identify cars based on a description. I can type in a purple Chevy Camaro, and it will find every purple Chevy Camaro that's driven by a specific camera or anywhere in the city. It's incredibly useful for trying to find a suspect who we have a vague vehicle description on. Incredibly useful for correlating certain types of crimes. So if I have a burglary in one neighborhood and then a burglary in another neighborhood, I can check for any common vehicles that were there between the two, and presto changeo, I now have an actual suspect to potentially follow up on. And so I studied this for a long time before finally recommending to the commissioners that we sign a contract and get this technology. Certainly worried about the potential for abuse. We put some very strong guardrails on it, both internally, on creating a policy internally about when the system could be queried and when it couldn't. Ensuring we enshrine in there that the images cannot be retrieved after 30 days, ensuring that the Flock was had erasure methods that would ensure that they could not be retrieved after 30 days. A bit about security, again, security is important, but we're talking about images that a camera has captured. You might have some incidental faces that are captured in there. It doesn't do it intentionally. It has no facial recognition ability whatsoever. Typically, the vast majority of these cars are just cars coming toward the camera and cars going away from the camera. I have a laundry list of crimes that's solved or has assisted us in solving crimes that would probably have gone unsolved had not been for Flock. And so the question there then is this very powerful law enforcement tool, is the juice worth the squeeze? It was somewhat controversial. Some folks questioned whether it was appropriate to have a law enforcement camera on a public space like that. It's a highway. Courts have consistently ruled. There's no question about its legality. Courts have consistently ruled that there's no expectation of privacy on a public roadway. I can tell you what kind of like the thought experiment that I use whenever I want to decide whether a piece of technology is something that I think is appropriate or not is does it replicate something that I could do if I had unlimited resources and personnel?
Like if you could put a person on every corner or something?
If I could put a police officer on every corner.
Yeah.
And have that police officer.
Have you seen a purple Camaro in the line?
Have you?
Yeah,
write
exactly.
down every license plate that drives past you. I could have an officer do that. I could have the officer write down that license plate number and put it into a tablet, query the registration to see if the car was stolen.
You need to clarify. This is not your recruiting message.
No.
You're not going to have to stand on a corner and do this.
This is going to be your job.
It's going to be a terrible job. But if I had unlimited resources, I could put a cop out there running plates for every car that drove by. What I couldn't do is have an officer look at people as they drive past and query that person's picture.
Do a rough sketch.
And then visually search in a bunch of mug shots beyond the ability of any human to do. And so I think a very important line to draw is this thing performing a task that can identify humans in a way that a human is fundamentally incapable of doing? And I get creeped out when I think about facial recognition and how it's being used in some other countries, like in China. I no doubt that it's solving crime. How cool would that be when you have
Preventing crime.
Yeah, literally preventing
Minority Report.
Preventing eating too. Well, that's neither here nor there.
But you've got folks that walk out in a public place. They're instantly identified and taken into custody if they have a warrant. How cool is that? Sort of.
Not really.
I get a little scared by that. No. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of that much power. I think that's ripe for abuse. And I don't like the idea of the government tracking where I'm coming and going. Using facial recognition, I don't like that. So the Flock license plate reader is a license plate in the back of your car for a reason. You're in a public place. I don't have a problem with it, but it's as far as I am ever prepared to go. That's my line. I'm not going to go any further than that. There's a case to be made for live video at certain locations, particularly intersections that have high crashes, to see who was at fault in a crash. I have no problem with that. But when we start talking about using cameras that do facial recognition, it's a bright line for me.
Well, first of all, I appreciate that tremendously. And as I said before, you are not my concern.
The next guy?
Well, not even the next guy, the policy and the lack of transparency and accountability as to what the next person or who's in control forever of what we're buying and what we're agreeing to. Because I can tell you, although everything that you just said about Flock, I think I agree with. I don't remember being voted. I don't remember a vote.
Nobody voted for it.
Nobody voted for it. And why not? And should it be on the voting? I'm not even saying that it should be in a vote.
Yeah, because we don't vote whenever they change from like Glock to SIG or something.
No.
But this is
different. That's different.
I mean, it is, but I'm using it as equipment. It's equipment.
But that's different. No.
You don't think it's equipment?
It's not
a gun. A gun is a tool,
and so is a Flock camera. Okay, fair enough. Whatever.
No. So my biggest concern is, when sheriff leaves the sheriff's office in 5 years or whatever, and whoever takes your place might be somebody that hates me, or might be somebody that hates you.
Yeah.
Or, it's like we're going to let, I don't know what the saying is, but I mean, we'd rather 10 people walk free that are guilty rather than one that's
the one that's innocent.
And I, as difficult as that for me to swallow sometimes, I fully believe in that, because you don't want to incriminate people that
having someone falsely convicted is it's the absolute antithesis of a free society. It's horrible. It's a travesty. So I guess the important question to ask is, what's the potential for abuse and what's the worst case scenario? And so worst case scenario on Flock is, and Flock will not change that 30-day rule. They will not expand it beyond that. That is a hard line for them, and it's one that I agree with. But let's say that you had a rogue actor come in, a deputy working for me, that decided that he wanted to follow some guy around for purely personal reasons. Every time that you put a query into that Flock system, you've got to justify it with a case number, run number. You've got to explain why you're doing it. And when we audit those to see if there's any unusual patterns, and the penalties for misusing that system are termination. So we're not messing around when it comes to somebody using the Flock system inappropriately. And so let's say you have a sheriff that gets in there that has an axe to grind with somebody. What's the worst thing that he can do? The worst thing you could do is figure out which Flock cameras you're driving past for a 30-day period. That's creepy, and it's wrong. And that guy, if caught, that sheriff needs to be voted out of office for sure. It may even be considered stalking under the state's current provisions for the stalking law, a level 6 felony. But does that result in harm? We could have a conversation about that. What's the worst case scenario should a system be misused? And if the worst case scenario is not irreparable harm, then I'd say we can have a conversation about, is it worthy of a trade-off? And do we know that we're putting a system in there that does have the potential for abuse? And do we trust our officials to effectively monitor it? And now I can't do it unilaterally. I just can't put up these Flock cameras just because I want to. I've got to have the commissioners approve it. And we had some discussion about that at a meeting to discuss whether we were going to do a Flock, and the commissioners voted 3-0 to go ahead and do the Flock cameras. If they feel pressure from the community, if there was a movement to protest these Flock cameras, they could show up at the commissioner's office and demand that the contract be revoked. They could demand that we don't sign a new contract. There are some safety valves there to ensure that if the popular will of the community was to get rid of these devices, they could compel the sheriff to do it by the commissioners refusing to sign the contract, or they could vote the sheriff out if he refused to abide by the community's desire not to have this technology.
I'm not here to lay any bad press on Flock cameras themselves. I've seen nothing or heard nothing by you or looking for videos that really causes me concern at this level.
Sure.
One of the worst policies ever created on the planet was done by a Republican in the name of safety, and that was the Patriot Act. Where I believe we're going really rapidly is Patriot Act 10.0, meaning if I allegedly commit a crime, depending on who you are, you might be the sheriff that doesn't like me very much, you can get back into my text history, you could get access to that through legal means. There would have to be a procedure. Everything is whatever.
Pretty high bar for a search warrant.
For now. And accessing the information does take that whatever. As our AI agents get better and better and better, all data is collected. All data is trackable. All data is kept. And so, again, the 30-year concern for me is all the data is kept. You could be a spectacular human, but I might create an AI video of you doing something really badly, which gets you falsely accused, and they go back into your email text records or whatever and find some innocuous comment that sounded racist or something. I don't know.
Sure.
And they pluck that out and cancel you at the minimum. I mean, we're just talking about taking something and making it, making it not a crime, but it's basically doing the same thing. You're not going to jail, but you're still probably losing your career or whatever. So I make these huge leaps in my head, so I apologize. I don't
understand.
I see what's going on.
You should always be thinking about what's the worst possible outcome
and my wife's a criminal defense attorney, so everything is worst case scenario. It's like, let's start with you did everything and you're going to die and work your way back from there. But for me, again, I just, all the data collection that's going on, everything is hackable. You said it yourself. We have things that basically have us aligned with social credit scoring and a Chinese model. All the equipment that we use, drones and all come through China because, again, I think a lot of Republicans made really stupid. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we do. I think we're going that way with warfare. We're going to have drones, and for God's sakes, we do not.
Yeah, we're sweating right now with the DJI drone thing because we're an all DJI shop right now, and if we get cut off from them where they can't be imported anymore, we're going to be looking for a new drone.
This is where I would be okay. I would be okay taking all those off the market right now.
Every
anything
drone,
that comes from China, I would take it off the market right now.
There's a case to be made.
If I had a button, I would do that, and I would force Congress to.
You're talking about anything
onshore,
electronic.
Anything electronic that has a chip that comes from China,
whether it's a TV or
I don't care,
or a
smartphone, smart stuff. It all creates a pattern. It's tracking.
That's the reason I mentioned I don't have TikTok on my phone, right?
Yeah, well, and I don't know the reality of that. I heard the same thing, and I don't have TikTok on my phone for the same reason.
I'd rather not.
Well, you know, but the reality of it is all the other big tech companies.
But my TV could be listening to me. Yeah, but it's Korean, so
that's listening to you.
You bet it is.
If you don't, what is it? iPhone or is it?
The iPhone. I'm an Android guy.
Okay,
my wife doesn't like that very much, but she can't FaceTime me, so it's
me and Travis could gang up on you right now, but we're totally not going to.
But you both have Facebook Messenger, so you can still FaceTime. It's just not called. It's just not called FaceTime.
Oh, yeah, I do have Facebook.
Anyway, I got a lot of clips here that we could basically show some of the. I don't know how much people are following what some of this tech can do. I don't think probably most people know that most of our military equipment is going to be worthless pretty shortly because it's all going. I mean, Ukraine-Russia conflict has shown that the drone strikes are absolutely the
end of the Abrams tank.
They don't have to worry about recruiting. They don't have to worry about nearly as much loss of life. They don't have to worry about dealing. They can just take a thing, seek it, and blow it up. And so, at the end of the day, you and the detalented group were talking, kind of laughing and chuckling about RoboCop, But I've been Minority Report, RoboCop / Terminator, and Elon Musk has his smiles on as he's putting, Optimus robots everywhere. And again,
I will name mine Prime.
These are
just
chips.
So he can be Optimus Prime.
Well, I'm Optimization Prime. That's my company. See, I'd have to try to sue you for that.
No, it's not.
Well, in my office, I've got two. I've got two pictures on kind of in the frame of my office. I've got RoboCop there, and I've got Ponch and John from Chip.
Yeah, I heard that.
It's just kind of the yin and
the
yin and the yang. It's the yin and the yang. So somewhere in the middle, right?
When you're a Trekkie too, right?
I am a Trekkie.
See, I'm more of a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, I love Star Wars.
Well, see, the Trekkie is more Democrat, and the Star Wars is more.
I never heard it described that way.
It's more of the rebellion is against centralized power. Centralized power, and so I'm a decentralized guy.
Yeah.
So and Star Trek is more about.
Yeah. Okay. I could.
It's,
all right. United. Yeah. I could.
It's just.
I'd never thought about.
It's just a little thing, and I actually really like Star Trek too. But I'm just more of a.
I'm with you.
More of a Star Wars guy. So. Let's show a clip, and I don't know which one I'm going to pull up real quick here, but there's robot dogs that police are LA's using.
Yeah.
We could just pull that one up real quick because I think as a tool that's probably the next potential thing. And
are they the Boston Dynamic ones?
What I don't know. I've heard a lot about those. Who is it? One of the podcasters talks a lot about that. Who is that? I haven't listened to him as much recently. Anyway, he's a tech dude that's built the robots. I'm sorry you put me on the spot. Otherwise, I'd have had that one. Lex Friedman. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
Hang on, I didn't. Give me a second.
A second we shall give, sir. 1001.
I don't know why my screen is not acting very intelligent right now.
I know it's being weird. I'm watching. I'm not showing, but I'm watching.
Thank you for that.
I'm the overlord of. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's see if that works. Does it look like we don't have a good signal right now?
No. Everything should be good.
Okay, let's try. I don't have volume.
Okay, because I've got it down right now.
I'll turn it up.
Morning. It started about. New at 5, a SWAT team in Los Angeles used a robotic dog to end a standoff early this morning. It started about 4 a.m. on a Metro bus. A passenger noticed the suspect in this case was sleeping on the bus with a gun under his seat. Well, the passengers and the bus driver evacuated the vehicle. Police then deployed the robotic dog. You just saw Spot, which boarded the bus and retrieved the gun. The suspect eventually then stepped off the bus and surrendered. There was no one hurt.
Well, so that robo dog didn't have a gun. It had a claw. It looked like maybe used for bomb stuff or opening doors.
But you remember that? I mean, this was a major. Was the shooting that happened at Dallas that they had used? I want to say it was the Dallas PD. I could be wrong on that. I know it was in Texas. They rigged a bomb robot with explosives on it and killed a suspect who had already shot several police officers, killed some police officers. And basically blew him up. It was the first recorded instance of the police ever using a piece of technology to kill someone remotely.
I got to say, that sounds very Texas.
It raised a lot of ethical questions, but it got the job done. And this guy, he would have killed more cops if they didn't do it. So certainly noteworthy.
Well, I mean, so that's, and I don't want to get into the politics of the current administration, presidential or anything like that right now. But I mean, they're blowing up, they're blowing up the drug boats, and there's an argument to be had on both sides about, well, those they didn't have, due process or whatever. But but we've been in a lot of wars for the last couple decades, and there really hasn't been any due process in any of that. Those were all foreign combatants. They're now calling people. If these are fentanyl laced loaded boats, I believe they are domestic terrorists. So I can argue. I could probably argue both ways. But at the end of the day, I think sending a message to cartels that are hauling in fentanyl in mass, it's probably not a terrible message to send, with the legal consideration that, and these boats aren't people out joyriding, by the way. You can see
I would hope not.
Yeah.
But as you said,
how do you know?
But you raised the point, whether, 10 guilty should go free lest we kill one innocent. It's kind of hard. I assume they have good intel on these boats, but we don't know, do we?
Well, and again, so to be my own devil's advocate, what is today, 10 years from now, is somebody has the ability to do this on their own, and all of a sudden I'm a threat.
Yeah.
And, so I never ever want to say these guys deserve it and good for it, because you could end up in that boat, no pun intended, 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a battle. Yeah. Let's got another one here. This is actually part of Ukrainian sea drones and a Russian oil tanker.
This was the moment Ukrainian sea drones launched their attack on a pair of oil tankers in the Black Sea, tracking their targets through the icy waters before slamming into them and self-destructing in a ball of flame. Drone attack. Drone attack. Please help. This distress call shared with NBC News by a Turkish maritime tracking site. No crew members were harmed, Turkish authorities say. The drones are called Sea Babies, and they're the size of small speedboats. Ukraine says both tankers are part of Russia's so-called shadow fleet, merchant ships secretly used by the Kremlin to evade Western oil sanctions.
Okay, so not needing to get into the politics of that, I'm more just wanting to show the capability and the technology, what it's able to do now. And I think there's another one. Here's another one that's probably...
So far, the commonality between these two is a remotely controlled device. So I didn't get the impression that it was acting autonomously.
Correct. So far.
Hey, you're about to say hold on.
I mean, so again, we're creeping technology everywhere. If you've got more and more cameras, more and more facial recognition, more and more trackability on any given target, you don't need someone driving the plane anymore. You just need a hit, and it gets easier and easier. And that's really dark. I don't even like saying it, but here we are again. We're looking to prevent things 30 years from now, make our kids and grandkids safe. And the decisions you make and the arguments you raise, not only that, the political capital you have to carry the argument and to make sure that this is, because I'm trying to say things that I feel like could be really, really bad. I don't really have a lot of political capital now. I'm growing, and like more and more people are hearing the show. I'm sure a lot of people are going to watch a lot of these clips with some interest. And I'm just trying to raise awareness that if you just we all stick our heads in the collective sand and hope that Sheriff Robinson's successor is just going to do the right thing for the community 30 years from now. How do we know that? We don't know.
But that's always been the pace of technology and society evolving. There's always been, whether it was cops switching to police cars versus horses, or of course the advent of other technology like the semi-automatic handgun as opposed to a rifle, or tasers were a big thing. It was very controversial when they came out. Do they actually, are they effective? Is it appropriate to use one? Is it torture? And that goes litigated. There's always some new thing on the horizon. But to me, it's like, again, what's the worst possible use case? What could go wrong? And you kind of alluded to that. To me, anytime you have a piece of technology, I don't have an issue with being able to operate a piece of technology, whether it's a cute little dog with a hand on it or a drone somewhere. I have no problem with a human operator using that, as long as it's legal within the framework that we currently have. Where I get scared is, I'm a movie buff. We've all seen Terminator. It's a cliche to even talk about it now. But when you have a machine that's capable of autonomously killing without any interaction from its operator, that to me is that bright line. We can never go there. We can never do that. We're lost if we ever allow that to happen. And so, are we there yet? No, we're not. But to your point, we're getting closer every day. And I just hope that we are electing people that see that would never allow it to happen. But do you trust your government or not? I don't know. That's the big question.
Well, there's a lot of people like even the Elon Musks that said he's been arguing and railing for security protocols in government for a long time, and he basically handed over ChatGPT to its current I don't know, it's not an owner, whatever he is considered, but he was warning, is like, it's getting ready to get to where you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Yeah.
And so again, buying the next shiny object is going to be something that your predecessor, you're going to get the next shiny object put in front of you within the next 2 years. Mass produced. I mean, they're going to do personalized robots.
Sure.
I know that governments are going to fund things if it makes sense. I would
love to have a robot that's capable of wandering around the jail and checking inmates to see if their heartbeat and vital signs are good. I mean, that's a potential lifesaver, liability reducer, manpower saver. That would be technology that I'd be very interested in. Do I want a piece of technology that would tase an inmate if they were out of their cell? No, that's a line I'm not crossing. I don't want. I'm worried that technology could. I get nervous when I think that the potential for technology to malfunction and harm somebody, and there have to be strict controls on that. And I'm not seeing that in terms of what AI can do. No one's convinced me yet that, even the own creators of this technology, the ones who are developing it, they're very circumspect on, well, there's a slight chance it could end humanity. Oh, gee. Well,
10% chance is way too much.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, even the drone, I mean, I'm a hunter. You probably could tell from the guns and dead animals laying around. But so, there's technology now that there's people that will hunt for, that will come out if you've shot a deer and wounded it, and they'll track it with a dog. There's also people now that are doing that with drones.
Okay.
And so, and they not only can they track your wounded or dead animal, but they can look at herds. So there's heat-seeking capability in I don't want to call it commercial, but someone that's a drone pilot can go buy a drone that's got heat-seeking
thermal imagery.
So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that if you can say, here's the thermal, that's what that person looks like. The cameras in these drones are getting better and better and better. You'll be able to say, yeah, that's the person, or yeah, that's the thing. And basically these self-destructive drones that they have, I got another clip queued up here where they're tracking down people on motorcycles and basically slamming drones into people. And that's how, so people thought the Ukrainians were just going to get annihilated by the Russian army, but they didn't know what drones were all about until
first time it's been used like this.
And so it sounds really cool. Well, wow, the Ukrainians were able to fight back against the big bad Russians.
David and Goliath kind of
Guess who gave them that? Guess who gave them all that funding and all that stuff?
Yeah, we did.
That's us. And so we have it. So
we definitely have it.
Let's watch this clip. This is maybe a longer one. Go ahead and turn it up.
The Pokrovsk area was once again rumbling, not with the roar of heavy war machines, but with the precision thuds of Ukrainian drones operating relentlessly in the gloomy skies. This region, which for weeks had been a tug-of-war between Ukrainian forces and Russian strike groups, witnessed another clash that demonstrated the utter superiority of Kyiv's unmanned systems. In the early hours of the morning, Ukrainian drone operators detected the movement of a small convoy of Russian motorcycles moving quickly from the east, presumably carrying ammunition and supplies for troops trying to hold the front lines. They relied on the agility of motorcycles as a method of rapid, tactical, and difficult-to-detect mobilization. But this time, the tactic proved unsuccessful.
Oh, God.
In footage obtained from the air unit, one of the reconnaissance drones clearly observed a dusty dirt track littered with tire marks. 4 Russian motorcycle riders were seen riding in close formation, attempting to use their speed to evade ambush. But within seconds, Ukrainian drones swooped low, chose the right time, and struck them in rapid succession, cutting off the enemy's vital supply line. Shortly afterward, a vehicle suspected of carrying ammunition boxes attempted to break out of the danger zone. The drone operator, remaining calm despite the urgency of the situation, delivered a precise strike that instantly disabled the vehicle before it reached the front.
Okay, we could watch this whole video because it's really intriguing and it's tempting, probably
gives you chills
with the right people. You know, I'm sure as a military battlefield expert, obviously they're all looking at this and they're looking and they're saying, you know, we can save probably a lot of our own people. We're having recruiting problems ourselves. And who wants to go out into these areas and try to stop these people? Why not? Since we're all video game junkies anyway, why don't we just teach people how to fly a drone? And you know, I understand.
Is there a meaningful difference between shooting somebody with a gun from a mile away or flying a drone into the side of them?
Probably not. It makes there's a lot of logical sense to be made of it, I think. And especially in a war zone, you know, when you're in war, you're in war. What we're talking about here is this is the technology, this is the evolution of warfare and security, and what stops it from creeping into our backyards, our neighborhood. I mean, is it going to show up in Chandler Police Department first? Probably not. Is it going to show up in LA Police Department, Chicago Police Department first? Probably. And so, but by then it'll be too late for especially the people living there. And so I don't know how you can raise enough red flags. I don't know.
Let me get your thoughts on this, because this is something that the sheriff's office and the Evansville Police Department have at least set through presentations on and have considered. And so far the reasons that we haven't done it yet is twofold. It's cost prohibitive, and I'm not sure how the community would feel about it.
For now. Cost prohibitive for now.
It's not something that I would undertake. I think, as one of you alluded to earlier, that maybe that needs to be on the ballot, but it certainly would require a lot of public input before we would ever conceive of doing it.
And continued oversight, not just input.
And continued oversight. Yeah. I would agree with that. But it's the idea of a drone as a first responder. And you may have heard this terminology before, but it's common industry parlance, drone as a first responder. The idea being that you have a few locations in the city or in the county to where these drones live in a pod, and then when a 911 call comes up, you push a button at dispatch, the drone flies up in the air, zips over there at about 100 miles an hour, converts into hover mode, and is now hovering over the site of the 911 call, providing intelligence to the officers that were responding.
I've seen clips that tell that. And that's a compelling story.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's a compelling story. And it's another step towards, it can take one more step. And so,
what do you think on that train of thought? What is the next step? The next frightening step. What's the next step that's a step too far in your mind?
Well, that drone itself could be flown. Any drone can go offline or be hacked, and can be sent into a building or fall onto a building or into a car or into the street, out of the air. I mean, it can harm somebody accidentally. Right?
Police officer driving fast to a run.
Any projectile going 100 miles an hour
could harm somebody.
Yeah, that drone you said going 100 miles an hour. If it hits something, it's going to hurt.
Sure.
Or probably kill it. At the end of the day, it's just the step. I think it's a glorious tool.
I mean, we just real quickly
for intel.
When we were paused, you were talking about how somebody was apprehended due to
just literally on the phone here. A joint operation between the Evansville Police Department and the Sheriff's Office had a barricaded sex offender, and they fled and they caught him with a drone.
Yeah,
but I'm never ends justify the means kind of what guy. Just because it turned out nice or just because we used technology the right way one time, but anything's a tool. It's a handgun used appropriately, it could save lives. Used incorrectly, it could take lives. So,
I really liked your thought experiment with if I had unlimited resources, what could I? So, when you utilize, like I've seen in a lot of different situations where a drone is utilized for recon, pretty much, like go fly around a house, look at all the windows,
like a helicopter.
Well, I'm just thinking of even if a guy's just up on a lift with binoculars, it's the same thing, pretty much. So, I mean, I don't necessarily find I like that thought experiment. I've never thought about it.
I think
but I like it.
I think a drone inherently makes it a little creepy because we have been primed, at least I have, with sci-fi movies to think this thing's flying around out here. It looks like, wow, what is this? What's the next step here? And you make a valid point there. It's like, where could this go wrong? Like any technology.
Well, I'll tell you, right, if there's something going on in my neighborhood just down the street and you all deploy one of these things and it comes flying by my house, I'm going to freak the shit out.
Yeah.
I'm going to be freaked out, and I don't know. I can't tell you what I would do. I can tell you some things that I have in mind. And that's something
that involve birdshot.
Well, at least buckshot potentially, but you're not going
to hit it with buckshot. You're going to hit it with birdshot maybe, but buckshot. You're not
interesting story. I got a shotgun, a Kel-Tec, and I took it down to our lake property, and I wanted both my kids to see it and shoot it. And I tell you what, I shot down at the end of the lake, about 75 yards away, and I didn't even aim. I just went, Hey, Hunter, watch this. Poof, and it just went down on the water. I'm like, so if you're being threatened and someone was 75 yards away from you, I think that would slow them down.
That's how Chad goes fishing, by the way.
But I mean, that's from a drone perspective. Again, I'm looking at it from, I'm not going to shoot somebody from 75 yards away. I'm not an officer, but if someone for some reason is shooting at me, I'm going to use it. Sure. But if there's a drone, dude, if you're flying a drone over my house or I see it outside my window, how do I know what you're doing or what you're up to? I mean, there's so many violations.
And we are coming a long way on that. The technology to track these drones, I was literally just talking with the director of the EMA today about this. So at the jail, we've got a drone tracker. We can tell who's flying the thing, who it's registered to, tell its IP address, certain characteristics of it, and where the operator is. That's kind of creepy in some respects.
Yeah, we could argue both sides of that.
We could argue both sides of that one, but it's an aircraft, and so that information is publicly available. It's considered an aircraft, so it's regulated by the FAA.
Until you get somebody making drones that
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That are not trackable, which is very easy.
It's quite possible.
I know you're not going to give me the ins and outs of this, but if it's using RF signal, how in the world does it know where the person's located? Does it just use? Maybe you can't even tell me. I don't know, but
and the reason I can't say is I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you. I don't.
But it can figure out where that RF signal is coming from.
It can figure out where the operator is standing. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And they used it down there at the Fall Festival when they had some other violate the no fly.
I did, and they happen to have an outstanding warrant or something, didn't they?
Travis, it's got to be. Doesn't it have to do something in the tracking code that the drone is communicating with your remote at any given second, basically locating it? There has to be some kind of.
Well, there's GPS. So there's GPS in both. It can return home.
The drone needs to know how to get home.
Yeah, the drone can return home, but I don't know that the remote has any type of GPS capability.
Okay. Whoa.
Though.
Don't talk yourself past that too much.
I'm saying I don't know.
If your drone knows how to get home,
it knows where you are.
The drone knows where you are, but it's not due to the remote. It's due to the satellite GPS configuration of where you take off.
There you are.
That's how it works. But if I set it down at my neighbor's house and take off over there, my remote isn't sending a signal. The drone just maybe knows where it came from. I don't know.
Your remote is sending a signal.
It's not sending a GPS signal. It's sending an RF signal. At least my I fly DJIs.
Then they're probably tracking the RF.
So I guess you would just have to figure.
It may be reading the RF signal from the drone to the
and you mentioned registration. And I did some research on this, but this was back when I bought my most recent drone, which is still about 3 years ago, and you didn't have to register it if it was under 250 grams, 250 grams, excuse me. And so mine is still not necessarily registered.
Right.
But Not that I'm trying to break any laws.
So you asked my thoughts. I don't know if I answered fully.
Yeah, sorry.
I think you did.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
It's
cool.
It's creepy.
I mean, I'm a I like technology. I do. I've got got the latest, not the latest greatest phone. I'm not doing that anymore. But it's just the creeping part of it that's going to continue getting better, and not only better, but smarter and needing less human input. That's really at the end of the day. You don't know when that switch happens, when the machines start building machines, and the large language models and the AIs start writing their own code and solving things that we can't solve and fixing.
Right.
It basically writes us out of the script at some point.
And we know from the creators of this technology that even they don't fully understand how the code works. You know, that's positive.
Well, there's an article of an AI who was built in a closed sandbox environment. And it was given false information. It was given email. Do you know where I'm going with this?
They blackmailed its operator.
So it was given false email messages, false everything. So it thought it was watching a business, like the employees of a business and all these kind of things. And finally, there was an email sent that this device needed to be taken. They were going to take the device offline. Yeah. Well, the device had read enough emails, and they did this on purpose. But there was one person in the office who was having an affair. I think is that what it was?
It was an affair.
They were having an affair,
and fake.
So
it was fake.
It was all fake. This was all made up to see what the AI would do. But it truly thought that this individual was having an affair. It truly thought that it was going to be shut down, and for whatever reason, it started to try to blackmail that individual to make sure that it didn't get shut off. Yeah, it was a self-preservation thing, which was not written in the code.
Where did it get the idea for self-preservation?
I mean, it had to have been from either viewing or whatever's been fed to it. Like the LLMs, they're fed a bunch of information to.
But as a concept, as a concept, where would it get the idea?
Well, and it depends on how
an idea.
It depends on how the backbone was written.
Stuff. It just blows your mind.
It depends on how the backbone was written. If it was given information, like maybe it was given a certain module that just gives it the what humans are, how they progress, like small bits of information to know what it's looking at or what it's reviewing.
Well, so here, let's do this real quick. So I can create a team of AI agents. And I can underwrite a code or a voice command basically saying, you are my child's personal protector. And under no circumstances are you to harm my child or allow anyone to harm my child. And I've thought about this as creating an app, as in...
I know I've written some of the code already.
Our kids have been our kids are being targeted by every single thing and every single corporation, being manipulated like we are, because we're dumb. We're like, ooh, let's look at something, and our kids are just thinking they're smarter and looking at more and more and more. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you create a prompt and a team of AI agents that are the rule number one, and never violate rule number one, is do not harm this child. Yeah. Think of Hal the movie. Are you familiar with Hal?
Quite.
Okay. So at some point, it outthinks where you're going, and
it knows better than you.
It knows better than you. Yeah. And when you start a code line where that's the rule, the rule is the rule.
The rule of unintended consequences, right? You don't know how it thinks, and therefore you don't know what it's capable of or where it's going, or how its logic works.
It's only times like this that I think about pulling the plug is maybe a good idea.
Believe me, I have these thoughts. See, and I genuinely worry about it.
I deal with this technology daily, because we're developing an AI tool for our systems. I'm AI and a software developer for my company, and I think part of why you and I have a different viewpoint on these type of things,
just opinions, not viewpoints. I could be wrong.
Isn't an opinion a viewpoint? But I think it might have to do with a lack of not a lack of understanding. I'm not saying you're an idiot by any means, but
like you kind of just did. It sounded like a backhanded compliment.
I mean, just because you're
really smart, dummy.
Everything before but doesn't matter.
Because you're an idiot.
Saying you're an idiot, but
because you're an idiot, you don't. No.
Wait, Freudian slip.
No, but I think I think it's just an education to the ins and outs of the technology. I think could be helpful for some people who feel overwhelmed by the technology or what it could. Or
does Elon Musk feel overwhelmed by the technology?
Yeah.
I don't think he does.
Been pretty clear,
but he says it could be Terminator and it could destroy everything.
And I say it could too. But you and I have this. We've had the conversation of like, you don't have Alexas around because you don't want them listening to you or whatever. And I say, well, I don't see the harm in it myself
because you quote unquote don't have anything to hide.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
not
slippery slope.
that's not the strongest argument. That's never been the strongest argument.
But
I don't care if my TV's listening to me because I have enough to hide.
I don't want my TV listening to me have
but
sex with my wife.
they all already do. Is what I'm saying. I mean,
that kind of making my argument for me. Though. I don't know.
But I mean, okay, whatever.
I see.
No, but when your TV can get smart enough and have a program in it, or your device, somebody can install an agent on your thing that basically is learning what your weaknesses are and
the
what
opportunities for blackmail are endless.
You called somebody a word. You know, back when we were kids, a lot of people said a lot of words that today would just get you straight fired or canceled.
Oh yeah.
And so we are expecting our kids to never say anything off the rail. That is just a recipe for stupid disaster. I mean, that is, our kids are going to say stupid things and they're going to get slapped in the face for it. And that's how you learn. You don't get you don't get trained and punished 10 years after it happens. But guess what? That's what's happening. You're kind
of alluding to that trend of somebody gets famous and then they go back and they dig up a Facebook post from 15 years ago and they get canceled. That's
Kevin Hart had to apologize for something and declined.
James Gunn,
something. Yeah,
I would argue all three of us sitting at this table could probably have one thing that came out of our mouth. If it was put in front of the wrong person, it would be out of context or whatever.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that literally has regret over stupid things I've said.
I know, but you're a human.
Yeah,
I mean. You can have regret. That's what part of learning is. You got to have regret. You got to learn from your mistake. That was really dumb.
That was really dumb. I feel bad that I said that.
but you know it was wrong, and so you can teach your kids maybe to not say it, but they're still going to think it because you said it. Yeah. You know, it's like, why did Dad do that? Oh, okay. You know. Anyway,
so you're almost kind of a Orwellian thought police kind of thing, where the imposition of this technology is controlling human behavior because they feel inhibited because they never know who's watching. It's an interesting idea.
Well, Listen,
deterrent.
So I've been censored for talking about things that people didn't want me talking about. Been censored locally by local politicians for saying something not derogatory, something critical of a department, not a police department. Don't need to bring it up again. And so, you know, who are they to say that I can't critique or have an opinion about something that's being done?
I don't know. Facebook seems like there's plenty of opinions on there.
So when a local government can use that, see it first of all, and then push a button and the comment goes away.
No, we don't do that. And government should not do that.
It happened.
It should not happen.
It happened. It shouldn't happen. I agree with you.
Now, there's some
it happened to Shonda too.
Very limited circumstances in which, and I'm not debating the specifics of what happened to you. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you from the own sheriff's office page, I see stuff on there that I think is a lie, is wrong, is not fair, and I can't delete any of it, and nor should I be. And the rule of thumb I always say for the folks that are managing our social media accounts is, if you wouldn't be justified in telling somebody that's on the sidewalk holding the sign up to leave, and that's pretty rare you'd ever be able to do that, then you can't delete it off Facebook. Now, there's a question if somebody's getting on there and they're inciting hate. It violates Facebook's own standards. But I don't want to be the arbiter of that, because I can't. By creating that Facebook page, I'm establishing a vessel for you to communicate with the government and be able to voice your opinions. And I don't think it's appropriate. And the law is pretty clear as far as some of these case law that I can't be the arbiter of what's on that Facebook page, nor should I be.
Well, and even the slippery slope of that, and how I think comedy in a lot of ways has saved us, even though a lot of comedians have been canceled and have had to fight. It's brought back comedy in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
But they basically got shamed out of saying things that, I mean, let's go back to Eddie Murphy or Richard Pryor and try to think about hearing that in some live context. Or
Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles would never get made.
Movie.
Oh my gosh! But now for you thinking it's funny, you could be judged for it.
I'll accept judgment.
But that's the fight.
Movie that was satirizing and pointing out the ridiculousness of racism.
We have to absolutely fight for the right for you to be offended, and you just have to suck it up. I mean, this is kind of the whole rebellion I've had about the thought police and the cancellation is we're teaching people that someone can say something that hurts your feelings enough that we need to cancel the other person, and that's just first principle's wrong. I don't care. And that's, again, the comedy thing. We use some comedy sometimes to prove some points.
But I also feel free to call that person a jerk. Hey, you're a jerk, man.
Yeah. So I got one more. So I don't know what we haven't hit on. I know we're running a little, not long, but I mean, our
it hasn't felt that way. I've enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad, because you said you were tired coming in. I thought we were going to have to I don't know, throw some water on you.
Caffeine shot.
You want some more? You want some more water?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Otherwise, we'd have to take another bathroom break. So I'm sure, I don't know how the process goes. I don't need you to explain the process of how these tech suppliers and tech companies are going to try to sell state level, city level technology, how it's all going to be funded. I'm not going to get into the. I want to have you back because, you know, I have a lot of concerns about like Palantir and all the stuff that's going on there. I didn't prepare you for that. I don't even want to have a superficial conversation about it right now. But I do believe that's a conversation that needs to be had fairly soon.
Yeah.
Just to have people locally. I think people say locally, well, we don't need to know that because that's something government, you know, high government level. I'm like, it comes into everybody's yard. It's going to be everywhere. So everything starts in your kitchen, and you need to treat it that. This particular clip that I'm getting ready to share, if we watch the whole thing, I might stop and start it.
Okay.
It's 5 minutes, I think 4.5 minutes. And this guy it sounds like a drone company salesperson or whatever, and he's making the case for police drones.
Okay.
And I hear certain things, and I'm like, yeah, well, good, yeah. Then I hear certain things. I'm like, ooh. And then he says something in a really creepy way, like, this is all going to be great. And I'm like, oh God, you know, so this, I want to get your, I didn't share this one with Travis. So we're going to let you guys both hear it for the first time, hopefully.
First on our list is enhancing crime scene investigations. Imagine surveying a crime scene from every angle, capturing crucial evidence with unprecedented precision. Drones are transforming crime scene investigations, providing law enforcement agencies with a bird's-eye view that uncovers hidden details. Using drones, investigators can capture 3D models of crime scenes, allowing for accurate measurements and virtual reconstructions. This enhances the overall investigation process, leading to more accurate findings and increased conviction rates. The second use...
Okay.
That all sounds good.
Photogrammetry is what he's describing. And
yeah.
we use a form of it now with our drones.
Okay. So that sounds all warm and fuzzy.
All right.
Warm and fuzzy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Case on our list is aerial surveillance and search operations. In the pursuit of justice, drones have become indispensable. Equipped with high-definition cameras, they patrol the skies, assisting law enforcement agencies in tracking suspects, monitoring public events, and even aiding in search and rescue missions. Drones provide a crucial advantage when human intervention is risky or impractical. They can cover large areas in a fraction of the time it would take ground units, providing real-time intelligence to officers on the ground. Next up.
So you've already basically explained that.
We do that.
And I took the slippery slope angle of like, okay. It's getting.
We could do it with a helicopter right now.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we probably would be flying at 20 feet above your house, but we could.
It seems like they do. We're pretty close to the airport here.
Yeah, we could fly a helicopter, and it's something that could be accomplished before drone tech.
But you could only do like one of those. You have access to one helicopter probably.
Right.
So if you were in a bigger city and you only had one, it's just not feasible or affordable.
Not scalable
to do that.
Not scalable at all.
And not. But these things are, you can in and out of doorways.
Sure.
So that's you have maneuverability. That's
definitely. We have smaller ones we've used for that as well.
Sure.
Yeah. Who wants to go in a house and be confronted by a gun?
Yeah. So when we could have the argument, like I think the most recent event that we touched on, like sending something to interview or assess the situation in advance would have been super helpful. I think I could critique that whole thing a lot, and I'm not going to get into that. But I think more surveillance and more time would have done that one a little bit,
that's a conversation I would have, at a future date.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Once everything is heard, and we kind of post assess.
Accident reconstruction. The eyes in the sky are watching out for us on the roads as well. Drones are deployed to monitor traffic flow, detect violations, and assist in accident reconstruction.
With their ability we do speed measuring. The state police regularly use aircraft to monitor speed, and and we've definitely used drones to reconstruct crashes. So I haven't heard anything too alarming there.
Okay. So we're going to have one on every street?
Well,
going to have one in every neighborhood?
Well, it wasn't watching the crash. It was trying to recreate the crash.
Just a slippery slope conversation here. I'm not talking about like a state highway or...
If we had one drone monitoring, I guess it's a question of how many police, I mean, because there's a line, right? Like maybe in a community of 100,000, 100 police officers is a good thing. A community of 100,000, 1,000 police officers starts to feel like a police state, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess it's sometimes a question of scale, right? I mean, one drone,
and just because it's not a human,
right,
it's still effectively acting like a police officer.
So I mean, one drone out there flying around doing speed measuring, they can't pull a car over. It's got to have an officer that's doing the operating of the drone, and then an officer actually pulling the car over. It's not like the drone's going to fly down and issue you a ticket. I'm not too frightened by what I've heard.
Okay. So there's a lot of different things to be had here. When you were younger, did you ever get into a car and just go out and have a little joyride and get a little faster than what you were supposed to?
I always drove the speed limit at all times.
Always, at all times.
All right, this podcast is over.
I wrecked my car the first day of school.
I never inhaled.
I wrecked my car the first day I could.
And so...
but you're still breaking the law, though.
For my kids' sake, for the sake of my dad's generation who grew up and they all had their fast little cars and they were doing little speed. I understand all that is against the law. I understand there's danger to it. I understand whatever. But we're just going down to that. It's kind of, we've crept into police state for 50 years. I mean, you could argue it. I'm not saying we are. I'm not saying we are. But if you just look at the direction and the controls, and we are heading in a direction. And I just think every drone, every consideration that you make, well, since it's working over in this really part of town that we have a lot of crime, well, those people still may have their own opinion about whether they want these things hovering around, and that's their decision to make as a community, their own community. And I'm not to tell someone in another zip code or whatever what they can and can't do. That needs to be a conversation that they're having.
Let me ask you this: is the concern you have? I'm gathering from this that there's a police operator. This is a police drone. And when Amazon starts dropping these packages off and it flies over your neighbor's house and drops a package off, does that creep you out as well?
Yeah, it's all hackable.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anybody could drop off anything at my doorstep.
Yeah.
And if I make somebody mad.
And to take it a step further, when it becomes normal to see these drones flying everywhere, you won't think a thing about it.
No. You're like, ooh, what?
You say that, but did you ever have a flaming bag of poo on a doorstep?
Sure.
I did.
I did.
I didn't.
Well, I'm just saying it's like
my friends did.
I'm saying you're just technology is being utilized to do something that's been that could be done in another way. It's just technology is doing it in a different way.
Okay, a flaming bag of poop is not learning how to build a bomb with AI on the internet. You're not delivering explosive devices.
Well, me taking a walk out of this room does not.
A drone is a device that's got a
tsunami.
battery in it that can fly into a window or door and do major harm. A bag of poop could catch your front porch on fire.
Dude,
true, but
there were remote control cars when you were a kid, right? You could do the same damn thing with those.
Well, you could if you could figure out a way. I didn't see it.
No,
I'm seeing a lot of this stuff happening with drones now. It's different. It's different technology. It's more rapidly available technology. If you had one of those little remote control cars and it got 40 or 50 feet away from you, the ones that most people could afford, it's going to stop. You can't control it anymore. It's going to, like, at a certain point, you couldn't do this anymore, right? You had a range.
You could manipulate that range. In high school, I created
you can fly a drone a mile away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not the same. If you threw a bag of burning poop onto a porch, there's a good chance a neighbor saw you do that. And there was some fear that you might get caught throwing. What was the movie where they were buddies and, at school, and then he got caught throwing the bag of poop and the kid found him? It's an older movie. It might have been a little bit before your time. I'll share it with you. Do you remember what it is?
It does not ring a bell. No.
Anyway,
they were doing hazing. They were doing hazing, so they were driving around neighborhoods and throwing poop. Anyway, I think
I'm just trying to say technology is just being utilized to do things that could have been done back in the day too. It's just in a different way. Is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's true. You're right on that for sure. I don't know where I was going with that now. Let's get back. Let's have another little clip here because it gets a little more creepy.
Comprehensive aerial footage, they help authorities better understand incidents and enforce traffic laws. By analyzing aerial drone footage, law enforcement agencies can reconstruct accidents more accurately, determining factors such as vehicle speed, impact points, and traffic patterns. This data is invaluable for insurance claims, court proceedings, and providing road safety measures. Some of the riskiest operations for law enforcement involve special weapons and tactic teams, otherwise known as SWAT. When it comes to high-stakes situations, drones provide an invaluable advantage. They act as the eyes and ears of SWAT teams, allowing them to assess dangerous environments before entering, ensuring officer safety and optimizing strategic decision-making. Drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras can detect the presence of individuals in challenging or hostile environments, providing critical information to SWAT teams. This capability enables law enforcement to plan and execute operations more precisely, minimizing risks and protecting lives. For our fifth...
So, what is your thoughts on that?
Well, we use that now. I mean, we
I
use drones smaller ones to fly into buildings to do inspection. I mean, we've got a barricaded person, we've got a window that we've breached, we can send that drone in there to have a look. It's undoubtedly saved police officers' lives. There's no doubt that's probably the best use case for it was just outlined there.
So what kind of building? So like to come into somebody's house, if you're entering a house, there either needs to be
search warrant. It would make a little difference if an officer extended his hand to the home or put a drone in there. Both would require the same search warrant, the same fact pattern to qualify for a search warrant to do that.
Okay, good.
Discuss community engagement and public safety education. Drones can also bridge the gap between law enforcement agencies and their communities. By organizing drone demonstrations and education programs, police departments are fostering trust and showcasing the positive impact of these technological marvels.
Might be overstating a little bit there, but
allow community members to witness firsthand how drones are utilized for public safety. Law enforcement agencies are actively engaging with schools, community centers, and events to educate the public on the responsible use of drones.
Okay. Before you guys shoot a hole in my argument, my
hang on, let me get my gun.
my particular point in this is, it sounds like rainbows and lollipops and sunshine. Of course, I think from a recruiting perspective, this is a fabulous tool to. Cops are cool. Cops can operate these things. I think at some level, it could solve those problems for you. A lot of those, not all the problems, but it could help you in the recruiting effort. Younger people will find, I get to go have the police teach me how to fly a drone.
For the same reason that NCIS, suddenly everybody wanted to be a crime scene investigator when all these shows were coming on. Could that encourage folks who've grown up on PlayStations? Hey, maybe I could be a drone operator for the police.
So here's my fundamental level of a slippery slope. It's just like we put social media in front of our kids before we knew what social media was, and they learned about it before we did, and it did destruction in many ways that we could never unwind. If you normalize these things just flying around, basically you're like, Amazon's going to start dropping these things. They're going to be everywhere. Self-driving, we could not have drones in the air if every car was self-driving and it wouldn't let you go over the speed limit. I mean, we could solve a lot of this by
you conceivably solve car crashes could be eliminated with that technology.
Exactly. So there's different ways to look at things. My point in this is this conversation that we're having, where we're talking about the slippery slope and the creeping, like you said, Orwellian potential of where it goes at any given moment. This just makes it cool for kids. This is all this I'm going to hear this guy say without the.
So you're kind of we're kind of grooming them in a way. We're making this technology normal. We're making them comfortable with it.
It's a lollipop. I mean, it's what harm is it going to do? We're helping you. You're going to be safer. You can walk down the street and you're going to have somebody looking out for you.
This is one of the criticisms that I occasionally hear leveled at. Not saying that you are criticizing.
No, I'm just.
It's a criticism might be like, well, cops do canine demonstrations. And kids love those dogs, and we've been accused before of, well, you're just showing this cute fluffy dog, so everybody loves dogs. But really, this dog's point is to catch bad guys, and sometimes when that dog catches a bad guy, the bad guy gets bit. And so you're putting a cute fluffy face on something that in fact can be used to harm someone.
Fur missile.
Fur missile. Right. Yeah, right. So I definitely
hadn't heard that one.
You know?
Fur missile. I definitely see the point you're making there. But again, it's not been uncommon for kids to come out for show and tell, and we've got weapons on the table. That showing these are a law enforcement tool, and I feel I don't necessarily feel that showing kids a drone is necessarily any worse than showing them a tactical shotgun and sitting on.
Well, no, so
or like Dare. Did Dare normalize drugs? So we should all do drugs now.
Showing them something and also seeing the dark sides and understanding the dark sides. When I first had my first BB gun put in my hand, it was the Red Ryder, could shoot your eye out, and you understood. And my brother did get shot in the eye and lost part of his vision. And so, I understand that this behavior, it's not a lollipop, even a BB gun. And so, and I was hunting, quail hunting one time, and a covey, one of the dogs was in a thicket in a fence line, and the covey flew out. I shot, and right as I shot, the dog jumped out of the thing, and I splashed the dog. So, like, there's not everything has risk. And all I'm saying is, if this is the path we're going, I think it's a really great potential. I'm not scared that we're going to teach the kids about drones. I'm scared that we're not going to teach them the risk of the stuff on the other side and everything that goes, more of the philosophy and the potential of where it's going. And some things like that with kids, you can't really, they can't understand that level of it. They're not going to understand this argument. Like, your daughter's not going to hear me and say, "No, why do I need to worry about whatever? It's just a drone. Dad flies one of those all the time."
It becomes normal.
Yeah, it just becomes normal. Anyway, go ahead, Travis.
I was going to say tomorrow I might have my drone outside your window here, just see what you do. That's all I was going to say.
Don't make it your good one. Don't make it one that you want to have back. I've got a little bit. I know we're going to wrap up here pretty quick.
Dispelling myths and building stronger relationships. Second to last on our list is training and skill development. Operating drones efficiently requires specialized training and skill development. Law enforcement agencies are investing in comprehensive training programs to ensure officers have the necessary expertise to handle these sophisticated tools. From learning the fundamentals of drone operation to understanding the legal and ethical aspects, officers undergo rigorous training to become certified drone pilots.
It's true.
These programs equip them with knowledge to navigate complex airspace, abide by regulations, and maximize the drone's potential in their operations. Our final thoughts center on future possibilities and technological advancements. The sky's the limit when it comes to the future of drones and law enforcement. As technology advances, we can expect even more groundbreaking applications and capabilities. From using artificial intelligence for real-time object recognition to integrating drones with other cutting-edge technologies like facial recognition systems, law enforcement agencies constantly push the boundaries to stay one step ahead of the criminals. So, those are 7 ways law enforcement professionals are using drones. Drones are truly revolutionizing law enforcement, empowering officers with unprecedented capabilities and enhancing public safety. If you found this video informative, make sure to like, subscribe.
Brave new world.
Skynet.
That last point was he even lost me on some of that.
Well, that's where that. So again,
it could go there. Yeah,
he did it. He did it perfectly to set it up exactly the way it all sounded really nice and fluffy along the way, and
Stuck it in there.
We could all find the nice things that could be done, the helpful things, the solving of problems things.
This use case: you're flying a drone overhead, just monitoring, and it sees a gun. Then it notifies dispatch, and now cops go to check this out. The guy, is that the worst thing in the world? No. I'd probably not. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I guess
I would argue on that one with you. But
let me ask. Okay, then
where was the gun? Where are we talking about?
Let's make the scenario real.
Laying down on the sidewalk.
It's 2:00. This is a far fetched, but maybe not. You're living in your neighborhood, and a guy's walking down the street, 3 houses down, and he's got a gun in his hand. He's walking down the street. Would you want the cops to come check that guy out?
What street? Where are we at?
You're
just at your house, like a few houses down.
3 houses down, 2:00 in the morning. Guy walking down the street with a gun in his hand. Would you want the cops to be sent to that?
I would. I'll say I would. He's not the one to ask. Yes, I would.
Well, it depends. It depends on where we are and what the context of it is.
We don't know. We have no way of knowing. It could be he's just out.
And this is where
it could be he's on his way to.
This is where the thought police and the minority report comes in.
Yeah,
because you're assuming that just because a guy has a gun and he's walking down the street, And
you can stop and talk with them. They're not going to slap cuffs on them.
And largely, I think probably percentage wise, you might be right. Like if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and somebody's walking down the street brandishing a gun, probably maybe not great.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
On a
Have I ever been outside at 2 a.m. with a gun in my hand? Yeah, probably.
At the hunt cabin, maybe.
I was not doing anything untoward. Now, I understand in the city limit, I would never have done that in the city limit. Why I ask where it was, because if I'm out in the county and I have 3 uncles down the street from me and most of my family all within like a quarter mile, they wouldn't have thought anything about me walking down the street. I mean, it was just...
but you're cherry picking, though, Chad.
I am cherry picking, but again, 10 guilty people...
But he didn't say he was guilty. They're just going to say hi.
No. We're going to... Is it worth law enforcement looking at? Let's say the technology is capable of not detecting, or it can eliminate false alarms by the gun being on the hip. It can maybe even the hand, but if the gun is raised and pointed...
Oh, well, I mean...
Okay. What if the technology can identify that? Would you want an officer to respond?
Well, if the technology was out in my neighborhood looking for that type of behavior, that gets very creepy.
Okay.
I think that's where we are. What he talked about at the end, where you just have a security net above you, and it sees this pattern behavior and this movement of your arm, and all of a sudden they can cue in on you because you did this with your arm. I mean, it's one thing if there was called and somebody in my neighborhood says there's somebody I've never seen before.
Yeah.
But it's just eliminating the call. But it's eliminating the call, but it's still doing the same thing.
The technology as the drone, the first responder thing, the idea behind it is, and the sales pitch was, let's say the drone recognizes this behavior. It then notifies dispatch. Now a human operator takes control of the drone and zooms in, and we see that's just some kid playing with a toy gun.
Yeah.
Or it sees the human operator identifies, whoa, this guy is... He's pointing a gun at people's houses here. What's he? Then it sends the cop out. So it's not automated completely. It has a human actor to identify it and see if it's a legitimate call.
So I will cherry pick. Okay, let me cherry pick.
Okay.
Let's say
pick your cherry.
Let's say our teenage kids are out in a neighborhood and they're having a water gun fight.
Yeah.
Or they're shooting. Yeah. Actually, there's some of the things that little things that they shot
the little gel things
and whatever. So again, just devil's advocate. Yes, I'm cherry picking, but I'm not really cherry picking. How many Nerf guns were in my house at one time?
Absolutely.
And so I'm just saying when you have that creeping eye in the sky everywhere.
But the cop could drive by and just see a couple of kids in swimming trunks shooting water pistols. And they just keep on driving.
And the drone operator sees the same thing. Like, okay, some kids with the water guns. Move on to the next thing.
Well, if it stops there.
Yeah, but that's critical. Devil's in detail.
That's
right?
that's the little slippery slope you're going to get into.
That's why I get concerned about automated response.
And so is my 14-year-old or one of his kids out there, maybe is deaf or so? I mean, and you trying to draw up a scenario that you don't ever want to let this happen. And I love the idea of the technology, and I want to save as many lives as we can with the technology that we can without going off the cliff on the other side.
Right.
And so am I saying I'm right and you're wrong? No. I'm saying this needs robust. This needs robust.
It definitely needs discussion.
Robust conversation. Yeah. And everyone can get a vote on it, but it also can't be mob rule. It also has to be like, I might have 10 terrible ideas, but one really good one that, like, okay, if we do this really could end badly. And so that's why I don't like canceling the Nick Fuentes's of the world either, because they do bring some things out that we can't ignore. So I think it's a good conversation. It's one that we could carry on. Travis got something to add on too.
Oh no, I thought you were going to do an ending, and I was just going to do a short little Q&A of the 2 questions that we got from some people.
Oh yeah.
So we reached out to some people, said that we were going to have you on. And,
okay.
And if there's anything that they wanted us to
we
ask.
are wrapping up.
Okay. So we only have we only really have two kind of questions here, and so. I'm just going to read them as they're here. So this isn't me. I mean, it's not that bad. But
oh boy.
No. It's not. It's not like that. But anyway, so this says, you stated that constitutional carry would lead to more deaths by decreasing public and officer safety. It said that you argued that eliminating the handgun permit requirement meant officers would lose a valuable tool for identifying and stopping individuals who shouldn't have guns, such as those with a history of violent behavior or mental instability, who wouldn't have qualified for a permit. It says you expressed frustration feeling the new law. Expressed frustration feeling the new law took a system that wasn't broken and broke it by removing the permit information that helped officers. It says it decreased safety, and it said that you believe that the law decrees both public and officer safety. I'm trying to. This is how this is written, so it's kind of.
He'll probably remember.
And then loss of a tool. It said that the handgun permit provided law enforcement with valuable information and acted as a deterrent, which is now gone. So really, after saying all of that, the question is, do you still feel the same way?
I do, and I've become more convinced of it. And I can even give an anecdote to it. And this has not been the trial yet, so I'll use no names. But I stopped a guy. This has been about 6 months ago. Had a motorcyclist go right by me very fast. I pulled him over, and he was acting a little bit fidgety. I kind of thought maybe he might be impaired, and just behaving kind of oddly. And I'm having this conversation with him, and I ask him, I say, "Do you have any weapons on you?" No guns, no knives, nothing like that. No. Well, I'm gonna pat you down for my safety. In which at that point, the way he was acting, I was justified in doing.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I turned him around, I put his hand behind his back, and I reached around the front, and he's got a handgun in his waistband. So at that moment, I have a decision to make. I have a decision to make. Okay, he knows I've got his handgun now. Mm-hmm. If he grabs me at this point, what am I going to do? Am I going to jerk the gun back? Am I going to go for my gun? And what am I going to do? It's all these things going through a microsecond. What's to go bad instantly? He lied to me. He lied to me about having a gun. Why did he do that? Mm-hmm. I put him on the ground.
Yep.
And handcuffed him. And he said, I had no right to put him on the ground. He was lawfully carrying. He doesn't have a permit. He's allowed to carry, what he called constitutional carry or permitless carry. Mm-hmm. Now, he ended up being intoxicated. But the question I thought was, well, what if he wasn't intoxicated? I just put this guy on the ground for no reason. So Indiana has no law that requires you. Because his argument, I had no reason to put him on the ground because he's lawfully carrying a handgun.
But if he lied to you, if you asked a question, if an officer asks you a question, do you have drugs on you? Do you that is illegal. So, but if you ask you, do you have a gun on you? And so if you ask me that, and I said no, I don't, then it comes out that I do. Is
legal?
There's no legal.
You can lie to me about that. And in the state of Indiana, there's no law that requires that you notify an officer that you're carrying a handgun in a public place,
right?
Anywhere for that matter. And there's no law that says you can't lie to a police officer and tell him that you're unarmed when in fact you are armed. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm skirting the question a little bit because it dealt with specifically permitless carry. Mm-hmm. But because you were asking officers to make these quick judgments, having that gun permit on file, having that record there, that person's now a known quantity to me. Mm-hmm. I know this person's been through a background check. Mm-hmm. They're not a convicted felon. They're not a convicted domestic violence abuser. They haven't been arrested repeatedly for public intoxication. They haven't been adjudged in certain limited circumstances mentally defective or dangerous person. And so I have all these known quantities now when I've stopped somebody and when the information comes back to their license plate. Now it's the Wild West. We pull somebody over. I have no idea what their circumstances are. Having that gun permit there was a reassurance to a police officer that this person was a known quantity. It helped reduce the potential for misunderstandings. Now cops have to approach every car as if someone is carrying a gun, which they always did. But you're walking up in a car and you don't know. I've always felt reassured when I saw that someone had a gun permit. I felt like, okay, I know this person still could be dangerous to me, but at least I know they're law abiding because they went and got a permit. Mm-hmm. That's been removed, and I think it's raised the tension level on your typical traffic stop, and I think it's led to outcomes. I can't point to any specifically, but I can tell you right now that I could have arrested that guy for carrying a handgun without a permit. And I'm glad. I'm not glad, but in this case, he was drunk, so I had a reason for arresting him for intoxicated driving. But had he not been intoxicated, I would have been dusting him off and unhandcuffing him and letting him go, despite the fact that he lied about carrying a gun.
Can I make a little bit of an argument back on this?
Please do.
Push back. So if let's just say,
I support the permit. By the way, I have a lifetime permit. It's right here in my wallet.
Yeah, I have a lifetime permit. We know that most of the time, most criminals aren't going to get the permit anyway,
right?
And so that's why most police officers are on edge, because they should be on edge, because you have to, at some level, be a conspiracy theorist and think this person potentially wants to kill me.
What's the worst case scenario?
Well, I mean, it's the reason why police and first responders have so much PTSD and need decompression and need all these different things that I don't know if they're always getting the amounts. At least back in the day, I don't think
they weren't back in the day.
They didn't get nearly enough or any.
We require.
It's like thanks.
Require it now.
Thank you. Good job. Mm-hmm. On your way. I guess my argument is, I don't know. I think the question, the underlying part of the question is, has it caused any real problem? Like, has there been any real death or extreme circumstances because of that change? I think that was more of he was trying to pinpoint whether you were saying because of this, more people are going to die. At least that's what I kind of gleaned from it. And do you think more people have died, or is it just still the tension is there?
I believe, and because I have it's very hard to prove something like this. Was it a factor, right? Was it a factor that the officer was slightly more on edge on a traffic stop than he otherwise would have been? And what effect did that have on a police shooting? How do you ever flush that out? But just from a logic standpoint, if I have deliberately, by enacting a statute, turned the temperature up just a little bit on every traffic stop, that has to be a net negative, right, for citizen police interactions. If I've just made each traffic stop just a little bit more uncertain, haven't I done a disservice to the officer who's got to walk up on that car with the tinted windows? And if I'm walking up on that car with dark tinted windows, wouldn't I be infinitely more reassured that I know that the registered owner took the time to be a law-abiding citizen and registered and get a permit to carry, as opposed to having no information?
Well, I mean, the peace of mind argument is something I cannot deny, and I've never been put in that situation. I've never had to approach a car. I've in my mind have walked through that many times. I put myself in situations all the time, just mental experiment. I mean, I did some of the training through Lawman, where you're in a restaurant and this thing starts to happen, and I didn't respond the way I thought I would respond. And a lot of people that were around me that were put in the same situation responded a lot faster and a lot differently than I did. And it was just really interesting, the social experiment of it. Yeah. And so I can't argue to the mental side of it, because again, I don't have that. And I know you're looking out for yourself and you're looking out for your officers.
I come at it from a police perspective.
Yeah.
It's the only perspective I have. So I realize there's other perspectives, but I will add one final point before I give you a chance to add on.
Excuse me.
Let's say that we are rolling through the neighborhood at 2:00 in the morning, and there's a guy at the end of the cul-de-sac, and we walk up on there, knock on the door, and he's got a gun in the car. He's has no permit. He's got some priors for burglary, no convictions. He's got a ski mask and a crowbar in his car. This is not an outlandish set of circumstances.
No, I mean, that sounds like it could happen tomorrow. Yeah.
I had a reason to arrest him now. He's carrying a gun in his car without a permit. Now it's see you later. And we've done that multiple times. I'm personally aware of that. We could have made an arrest and given a guy, maybe not, I didn't catch him committing a burglary or worse, but I did catch him carrying a gun without a permit. And he's able to get a little bit of punishment from that. I just don't think that it was too much of an ask for someone who wants to take on the awesome responsibility of carrying a loaded weapon on them to take just a base level step of getting a gun permit.
Do we know how many states are permitless? That was good.
The majority of them, I think, have gone to permitless. We're actually one of the more permissive states. I mean, even Texas has stricter gun laws than we do.
I was going to look it up, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a kind of one of those conversations that we could have over and over again.
We could
over time,
definitely.
And how can officers be trained, or like how can society be trained at some level to solve these problems together? I mean, to me, you drew a line that the dude sitting down in our cul-de-sac with a crowbar and a black mask and a gun. I mean, there should be probable cause there.
There's something there, right?
There's something there,
and not.
Well, I mean, I could. I think we should, there could be some law adaptions there that
possession of a gun.
Maybe that needs to be worked on. Yeah, maybe there, two or three things are not a coincidence, kind of thing, or at least to take in for questioning, or and like you said, he had priors. So if he has these things in his car, or he had a attempted burglary he wasn't convicted on before, to me that's probable cause. Does that mean he's going to get convicted? No. But that you guys deal with that all the time too.
I can tell you that would not, just with those facts only, would not meet the threshold.
And even the gun
for arresting somebody.
Even the gun, if he wasn't a felon. I mean, if he'd been a felon, obviously you had to
still have that.
That's not supposed to have a gun.
No gun if you're.
So it looks like 29 states allow permitless concealed carry currently.
Yeah.
By the way,
well, I got one more, and
I can ask the other one.
Yeah, I got one more.
You have another question?
Oh,
there is one more.
I have one more. I got one more from a different source.
Oh, you want me to do this one and then you finish up with yours?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
We should have started our questions earlier.
Yeah, sorry. Well, this one's probably not going to take too long to answer.
It's almost 9 o'clock.
I know, man. I'm telling you, time flies. So long form allows you just to like say things, and it goes so fast.
Yeah, I cannot believe
it's amazing.
It's like I fell into a time warp.
I know.
Hope your wife didn't want you home or anything.
She's on vacation.
That's right. She's
my granddaughter. She's out of town.
You said that earlier. Okay. So this just says, I'd like to know if there is a serious effort to deal with people driving while looking at their phones. Every day, usually multiple times, people on 2-lane roads are in my lane, and I have to use my horn and occasionally run off the road to avoid them.
Amen.
They also tie up traffic, playing with their phones and lowering how many people get through the lights. I believe they're more dangerous than most speeders. And I find I never think about the danger of drunk drivers anymore because these people are outnumbering them 1,000 to 1. What is your take on it?
I completely agree. I will say that I've written a few driving while using a cell phone tickets myself, and I spend a lot of time in the office. And I know our deputies do as well. But I do think there's definitely room for improvement because for some reason in law enforcement circles, I don't get the impression that is something that the average cop in the street is necessarily cued in and looking for all the time. And I don't know why that is. And I think that she's right, that there needs to be some improvement in the enforcement on that because I don't think we're doing enough to crack down on that.
I think it could be a technology fix too. As technology with the phones going, if you're operating a vehicle, as computerized vehicles are getting more computerized, there has to be some kind of fairly quick technological leap that could, I don't know if disarming your car is the thing, but I mean, it should know if you're doing this and you're doing that at the same time. I mean, I think
without limiting a passenger's
I'm okay with that creeping tech a little bit. I mean, because
that surprises me a little bit. I didn't expect
no
you to say
kid. That is pretty out of his.
It could kill my kid.
Yeah,
and my kid could be guilty of it, or my kid could be.
So could the guy walking down the street with a pistol in his hand at 2 in the morning.
See, that's.
So he could kill your kid too.
So could a tree falling out of a limb falling out of the tree.
He could kill your kid too.
No, he's driving.
Hey, a lot of these self-driving cars do require you to your eyes. To
what is a fur missile? He's not driving it doesn't have a fur missile, which is the canine dog. He has an actual missile, a big metal thing that he's driving around and doing a head on.
I'm thinking of that car off Dumb and Dumber now when you said that.
the Muttmobile or whatever. Yeah.
All right. Last one.
Yep.
Last one. So this was from a former police officer, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know if you've ever been in a life or death situation where you had to, discharge your firearm in an instant and been put in that heated, real fast, it's you or me, him or me, or
I've definitely been in a couple where I was taking up the slack on the trigger before. Yeah.
So I guess the question is, we've just had this whole incident that's still under investigation, and yet this officer has been doxxed. What is and I know I talked about it, but I don't think I gave you really an opportunity to breathe some air into that from your own perspective. That does cause me a lot of concern, not just from a recruiting perspective, but this person's life. Yes, he did end a life. Yes, I don't believe anyone just goes in and I'm going to go shoot somebody today or whatever. And if they are a terrible officer. They should never have been in that position. And, that's the end of the story on that one.
When I came on, I'll just finish your question. I apologize for
it's just, but when the doxing part, is that right? But finish what you're saying.
Is it right to dox an officer? Is it right for...
Well, finish what you're going to say, then you can...
Well, so when I came on very early on over at Owensboro, I heard one of my fellow guys in my shift said, he said, boy, I missed my chance to shoot somebody this evening. And I'm just, even as a young cop, I just looked over at him and I go, what did you just say? And he go, well, I didn't mean it like that. I go, it just floored me that he would say something like, I missed my opportunity to shoot somebody. That's the kind of guy I don't want working for me. I wouldn't, nowhere near me. No, absolutely not. And I don't have anybody in my agency, and I know my guys and gals pretty well. Nobody starts their shift thinking, boy, I hope I get a chance to shoot somebody this evening. That's psychopathic. That's not what we're about. And we do everything possible to weed out somebody like that through a very detailed vetting process and a psychological examination. And that's a no-go for me. You cannot have officers that think that way. I want to address what you said about the doxing. Is it do I think it's wrong that the public is out there putting out information about some members of the public might be putting out, like doing their own research on the internet and posting this officer's details?
I don't know who did it. I know the officer's name is now known. The footage is out, and the person their life has been forever changed, on top of their life actually being forever changed because they've now killed someone. Not just from a recruiting perspective, but from his own perspective, and reconsidering whether he would have ever become a police officer if he knew something like this was going to happen to him again. We already talked about it because I said he can't really go out in the public in certain areas anymore without probably always looking over his shoulder. And is that fair to him, especially in an instance where we don't know the facts? We don't know if it was the proper, like, you got to take all that out. So if you're doxing someone before we've even really got any information per se, and not most of the people knew the guy who ended up passing away's record and history of things, and nobody knows any of that.
I want to clarify one thing, just to be for clarity's sake. I definitely don't want to refer to or talk about this specific incidents because I am waiting. Like everyone else is. It's
more of the doxing.
To wait and see what what potentially the investigation reveals, what a grand jury might think. So I don't want to talk about this specific incident at all.
I agree with that.
But it was more a general statement is, if I had an officer involved in a shooting, would I want that officer's personal details being out there in the public? And I would have to weigh two things, which is transparency and the public's right to know, and us to have a truly transparent operation, versus protecting the rights and the privacy of my individual sheriff deputies. And I think each individual case requires a thorough examination of what the context is and what the fact, as I've called it before, a fact pattern, before making a determination. I tend to lead towards giving officers exactly the same protections as we would give a criminal defendant. And if I had planned to arrest someone, if I was investigating somebody for a crime, I would not put the person's name out there before I had just cause to arrest them or obtain a warrant. But the corollary there is that officers they're different than criminals. They're different than the public. We're held to a higher standard. We are public employees, and the public has a right to know who works for the sheriff's office and what they're doing. And so I would have to weigh the benefits of releasing a name like that versus the officer's privacy rights. But I tend to lean towards not releasing a name unless there was a really compelling reason to do so, because I do strongly believe that we have a tough job to do. That's why we have certain protections from qualified immunity and as I talked about earlier, the Tort Claims Act. There's a reason those protections exist. But also I recognize the fact that I, as a sheriff, am accountable to the public. And I have a responsibility to make sure that the public sees me as someone who's being transparent and being forthright and not shielding officers, protecting them when they don't deserve it. But as a general rule, I tend to lean towards protecting an officer's name until an investigation is complete. But that may not be the right call under all circumstances.
Well, we don't have time to probably get into the nuances of all the different circumstances. But just what I will say my initial gut is, an officer shouldn't be treated the same as a criminal defendant in any capacity,
or not worse than.
Well, yeah, but the officer was called there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's legitimate reasons. Sometimes it's not legitimate reasons, and in that split second, and where you're going, and the history, and there's track record. It's again from a recruiting perspective and just thinking about my own self. Mm-hmm. Putting myself into those situations, I probably wouldn't have handled it the same way, which is a different nuanced conversation that we can have later on down the line. But it's a slippery slope if someone knows that it's just going to be like that. You're not going to get people that want to do that. Yeah. And I don't know how to go around that.
There's nothing that can be done that takes away the fact that law enforcement in general has become more complicated, and it's frankly a difficult job, and it's not for everybody.
No, I know that.
And going into the profession, folks need to do it eyes wide open, knowing that it carries with a certain level of risk. And as we mentioned earlier, that what I alluded to is you may one day face a no-win scenario in which you can do everything correct or most things correct and still have to be judged for it. And for some level, that's the risk you take by going into this profession. That's why we have things as like qualified immunity and Tort Claims Act. But a law enforcement leader, when his officer has performed reasonably, needs to stand behind their officer. And so I'm just speaking in generalities here, but I will always back my guys and gals when they do things the legal and the right way. And I think you do that by getting that message out there and making sure that when you're recruiting people, that they know that you're going to work for an agency that cares about them and puts their interests right up there to the same with the public. We can't care about the public more than we care about the individual officers themselves. We can never let the officers feel like that they're somehow second class or they're not extended the same rights and courtesies that the public receives.
Well, I think that's a great answer. I think you got to have their back, meaning protect the integrity of everything that occurred, making sure internally and externally that it's reviewed properly, and just even if it was minutely different than the way you would handle it, it still doesn't mean that they were wrong and you're right. That's a judgment call that you can't ever get to. Like, that's why I asked you if you were ever in that. You said you had the tension on the trigger.
I had to pull back.
It was that
seconds away.
That minute, half a second or whatever it is, changes everything. Like, so you would have a completely different review probably. And then, God forbid if it turned out it could have been prevented in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think that's a really good answer. I think that's, from a recruiting perspective, if either one of my kids were going to go out and try to become an officer, I would want somebody that's like, you're going to be in some bad situations, and God forbid you get put into the worst of decisions. And, I don't know how you can train for that. I don't know, shooting all the bullets at targets or whatever.
You can do as much training and as much quality training as possible, but you have to acknowledge that there may be a set of circumstances that exceeds the human performance capability. We are not superhuman, and we're stuck with the hardware and software that we got, and that needs to be acknowledged anytime we judge an officer's actions.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you initiating this conversation.
No, thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming.
That's
my honor.
I think we need ongoing conversations, not just with you, because I know you're spending your own time here, but I think it is a public service and education to know the people that are helping us make these decisions and protecting our communities, and to have continuity between one administration to the next, especially when we're talking about technology is going to be one of these overlapping things that I feel like if it's not me spurring people to come in and talk, if you now are inspired to understand, like, I've got concerns about it, so I know I'm not alone. If people aren't concerned about some of these things, they probably should be.
I don't disagree.
So I just greatly appreciate you making that attempt. And
this is so cool. This long format. It hasn't felt long to me, but it's just, you might not believe this, and you probably do actually, that I just so rarely have the opportunity to do a deep dive into some of these issues. Normally it's a 30-second soundbite on the news. It's just, there's no way to possibly talk about the nuance of some of these things on the kind of conversations I normally have.
Well, I tell you, we do zero editing. It's everything.
I'm glad I didn't cuss much.
Well,
we get a lot of that.
Yeah,
Doc will
You're
drop
one of the
F-bombs
few.
like crazy.
You're one of the few that doesn't. So again, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank all your officers and my wife. We both greatly support the men in blue and brown.
I know that.
And I want nothing but the best for our local law enforcement. I want nothing but the best for your recruiting efforts, because we need a safe city. Yeah. And we have a lot of things that we need to tackle, but
we do.
If we don't have people that are out there looking out for us and able to make those difficult decisions in the split second, I think our society goes to pot pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
we've got to have people that are willing to step up to that challenge. That's an awesome responsibility.
Yeah,
it's an awesome responsibility.
Well, I appreciate your sacrifice, and not only for just tonight, but for every other day that you and your guys do what you do and your gals do what you do. You're welcome back anytime.
Nope, anytime you want.
If you have, as these conversations happen, and you hear about technology coming, I don't know when those things are coming. That's one of the real problems I have. Is like, we don't know what conversations are being had, and one person, not me, might raise a concern. And I just think if we're airing it, and people can hear it and summarize it and say, well, what about this? That's going to improve your large language model. these people in this community have a fear of this, or they feel like they really need this and they didn't know they had the potential to have it. Yeah. So it just needs to be a robust conversation.
Fort Wayne's been using these drones as a first responder for quite a while. They've got a pretty robust program. That might be worth looking at. We've studied it. How controversial it was up there, I don't know. I don't have an idea for what that was like up there, what their citizens thought of that.
Do we have something kind of like Shot Spotter or whatever? Does Evansville have?
No,
something like that?
there was a lot of talk about getting that. Ultimately, the price tag was a bit too high. Yeah. So we don't currently use that technology.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, tell me about that some other time. I don't want to drag it out anymore. We got to let this guy go home.
We've only been here for like 3.5 hours.
He's probably going to be up at 4 going and doing it again tomorrow.
It doesn't feel like the way I promised you guys.
Sheriff, thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks, everyone. Please like, subscribe, share. Anyone you think might enjoy this conversation and hearing about some of the technology that police are trying to use. And more importantly, we want a safe community. And to do that, we need to, in my opinion, start being more supportive of police and stop with the rhetoric that we have that is going to sway people from not wanting to do the thing that needs to be done. And as always, love you all. Thanks, Travis. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the pizza.
Have a good night. I might go have another piece.
We'll have bourbon next week.
All right, sounds good.
Maybe Sheriff will come back without his uniform on. Might have a beer
without the uniform on.
Maybe so. You're welcome anytime, buddy. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Loved all.
See ya.